My boyfriend found out I'm rich and started using it against me. My boyfriend and I met through a dating app 8 months ago, and we've had a good, steady relationship. I come from a well-off family, but my parents never spoiled me. They taught me not to indulge in excess and to keep my privilege in mind when interacting with people. I'm currently living in an apartment with only my salary. Now, I haven't told my boyfriend about my wealth. I wasn't actively hiding it, it just didn't come up. My birthday was a few weeks ago, and my parents threw a party at our home. Our home is a medium-sized villa. My boyfriend started scowling when I told him that was the home I grew up in. When I asked him about it, he told me it was nothing and started smiling again. His mood got worse though, as more and more of my parents' rich friends started coming in. When I asked him about it the next day, he just told me that he was feeling a little sick. After we got back, he asked me why I hid the fact I was rich. I told him that I wasn't hiding it, but he started bringing it up in every conversation after that. Like him telling me that I didn't know how to cook properly because I was spoilt. Sorry, is this the same person from the last one? He brought it up with his friends, telling them I was a spoilt princess who had everything handed to me. It started as jokes, but it got more hostile as the days went on. When I brought this up, he told me I didn't know normal people problems because I was rich. Did I do something wrong? And what should I do? And then a couple of days later, we got the following updates. After I made the Reddit post, I tried to have a conversation with him, but he kept stonewalling me. He made more snide comments and I decided to break up. When I told him that I was leaving him, it felt like he was expecting it. He called me a rich, and then word that rhymes with rich that also means female dog, and went on a rant about how I was leaving him because he was poor. Some commenters told me to expect this, but it still came as a shock. He and I have very good salaries, and I don't know why he said that. He was a good person most of the time I knew him. Some people asked me why I didn't warn him about my wealth. All my relationships before him were with people in my social class, so the expectation of wealth was implicit. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this is the first sentence that I've read from OP that I don't particularly like, but we'll carry on. Having wealth was not a big deal in any of my previous relationships, so I assumed it was the same in this one too. It just comes across a little bit patronizing, condescending. Even if it's not meant that way, that's all I'll say. I'll warn my partners before taking them home in my future relationships. Yeah, that's just silly. This is a tangent, but I wanted to talk about I'm not rich, my parents are, the thing that many comments suggested. A lot of my friends from wealthy families use that line as a defense, but it's misleading. If I wanted to, I could dip into my parents' finances. I choose not to, but it's still my wealth too. It might technically be my parents' money, but it still makes me wealthy. And having wealthy parents comes with a lot of privileges, even if I don't actively use their money. I never had to work a job when I was studying, I had access to the best schooling, I don't have student loans, and my parents' connections open a lot of doors. Having a safety net let me find what I was good at and let me take risks. So unless they are estranged from their families, children from wealthy families are also wealthy. You know what? I do agree with that entire paragraph, I'll be honest. I thank all the people who commented on my original post and gave me advice. I felt like I was doing something wrong, but you made me see that it was his insecurity and jealousy that was the issue. Okay, you know what? For a period there, for a couple of sentences, I was a little bit worried that OP was coming across as a little bit patronizing. As I said, I don't know, it felt like she knew she had all this wealth and was kind of just like, oh, it's not a problem. I don't know, maybe I've just misinterpreted that. Maybe I have. Looking at that final paragraph, it actually did make a lot of sense. I'm going to be honest, I do understand a lot of the stuff that she said there, and she's absolutely right. I know from my perspective, my parents having, some money meant that I did have more time to focus on stuff. For example, at uni, I could mess around and make silly YouTube videos rather than have a job. That's not, my parents' money isn't my money, but I've got to be honest, that is a fact. So I do completely understand what she's saying there. The thing is, for me, I'm always very careful to not ever gloat at all or even infer that, anyone has any money or anything, because it's so irrelevant to how you are as a person. But I will say that what she's saying isn't wrong. Now, the one thing that I didn't really get was saying, like, she kind of makes it seem like a bad thing, having money, and saying, oh, I should I have said about money. Like, in my experience, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's a weird thing for him, the boyfriend, to be so het up about, I will say, and that is a bit of a red flag, I guess, because it's just like, why is it a bad thing that someone's parents have money? I don't really understand that. Maybe you think, oh, they're so far removed from society. I don't know. If you feel that way in the comments, let me know. I don't really get it. Maybe that's my own, lack of social appreciation. Who knows? But from my perspective, definitely a good thing to break up with him. I was a little bit concerned that even though the whole point of the post is saying, why is this person using my wealth against me? You were still saying, I'm wealthy, just in a roundabout way, although I now have slightly changed my mind. Yeah, the only sentence I didn't like was when OP said, all my relationships before him were with people in my social class, so the expectation of wealth was implicit. Don't really like that, because that's kind of inferring that people in different social classes don't have wealth. You know, maybe if you look at the data, it's accurate, but I don't really like that. I don't know. I know a lot of kids, right? Or I knew a lot of kids in school that had extremely wealthy parents that were horrible. And like, so like, I don't know the word, patronizing, just so unaware. Well, aware, but then they made you aware of how wealthy their parents were, etc., etc. And none of that wealth was actually theirs. Yes, of course, it is theirs in a roundabout way, but they didn't make any of the money. It's their parents' money, you know? So that's all I'm trying to get at. I do think, though, that I probably did misinterpret OP a little bit, and she does seem pretty reasonable, and a lot of the points were very valid. Yeah. Overall, I mean, let's take it back a bit. Good thing that you got rid of your boyfriend. That's clear. That is really clear. My wife told me to shut my mouth in front of a bunch of people at a kid's birthday party. Now, this was originally posted on August the 21st, 2022. My wife and I are at odds lately over her sister-in-law, who is also her best friend, who is married to her brother. Long story short, she bends over backwards to accommodate their every ask, including babysitting, errands, etc. This extends to volunteering me to help them without my knowledge or consent. She never sees my point of view or agrees with any criticism of them that I have. We were at my nephew's birthday party today. My sister-in-law is the one who's hosting it, so my wife is super keen for things to go well. Things were going okay. My daughter, who is 3, was a bit upset because her balloon animal accidentally was popped. So she's standing with my wife, getting a cuddle, and a boy, older than her, about 5 or 6, sprints into her and knocks her over. She's crying, obviously, and I pick her up. My wife is making a joke of it, saying, oh, she needs to watch where she's going. But I said back to her, don't blame her for getting bowled over by the bigger boy. Now, apparently the mother of this other kid was in earshot, which prompted my wife to tell me, in front of one of her other best friends and a couple of other guests, to shut my mouth. Then she had the cheek to tell me to not have a moody face. 15 minutes before this post, I sent an email to a divorce lawyer for a consultation. I finally reached my limits. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was sort of expecting that final sentence. It seems as if this was definitely the turning point, or the tipping point, let's just say, to lots of other things that have come before this for OP. We're gonna get into an update almost immediately from the same post, of course, but I will say that, yeah, although it's obviously not very nice to have your wife tell you in front of other people to shut up or shut your mouth at a kid's birthday party. I mean, to be fair, that is pretty terrible. Some other stuff must have come before that. There must be some pent up, stuff going on there to actually call a divorce lawyer immediately afterwards. But anyway, let's see what happens next. So then, the first update. Firstly, I'd just like to thank everyone for your responses, supportive or otherwise. Being heard and listened to is such a mental boost. I spoke to my solicitor first thing this morning and we had a good talk. He knows that I'm angry and upset at the situation, and he says that he'll get myself and my wife in for a consultation if we decide to go down that route. The issue in Scotland is that for a divorce where only one party wants out, it can take upwards of a year to get it, and evidence of separation in that period, unless both parties agree to unreasonable behaviour as the reason for the court granting the divorce. Long story short, I can't proceed without her buy-in if I want it resolved fast. So I took my daughter to my mum's after this, and then I sat my wife down. I told her that yesterday's situation was absolutely unacceptable, and that if I'd told her to shut her mouth in front of my friends, that I'd be getting crucified by everyone we know. I told her she was lucky I kept my mouth shut at the party, and that I didn't give an F about how her sister-in-law would have taken it. We fought again about her sister-in-law, and again she defended her actions, saying that I'm the selfish one who won't help out my family when they need it. I then did the perhaps petty move of dropping divorce leaflets that I printed from my solicitor's website in front of her. I said to her, I absolutely want to help my family, and this is how I do it. I told her about how I was tired of playing third wheel in my own marriage, and I told her that I was not prepared to subject my daughter to a lifetime of this subservience. Finally, it looks like what I've said has had an impact. She cried, and I think she was close to having a panic attack. This made me feel guilty because fundamentally, I don't think she's a bad person. She's just brainwashed into thinking that her sister-in-law is the second coming of the Messiah. So she promised that when I finish work today, we can have a serious talk about things, and she'll listen to my concerns. Right now, I'm not buying it, but I owe her and my daughter at least a chance to sort things out, so I'll see where it goes. To answer some questions that folks had, I know this seemed like an overreaction to something, but you've got to understand that this was the latest in a long line of sister-in-law related issues. Some folks have asked if my wife might be gay and in love, and I have thought about this as a possibility. I haven't asked her yet, but I may tonight. It does certainly seem logical given how passionate she gets about it. Okay, so that is it for the first update, but just a day later, we got a second. So, we sat down last night for the crunch talks. I have to give her credit where it's due. She apologized for what she said at the party, and she said that she'd also have considered divorce if I'd done the same to her. I reiterated to her that my issue is that she completely makes herself subservient to her sister-in-law at our expense. I pointed out how messed up it was that she didn't immediately take our daughter's side in this incident. The collision was accidental, I think, but I told her that to blame the little one was out of line, which she accepted. I then asked her outright if she had any sort of romantic feelings for her sister-in-law. She squirmed and looked a little uncomfortable. She said that a long time ago at the end of high school, there had been a drunken kiss on a night out, but nothing beyond that. She sort of played the angle that she didn't want anyone, especially her brother, to know about it. And that's why she bends over backwards to make sure her sister-in-law is happy. I asked her if her sister-in-law had ever threatened to reveal this incident, but she denies that it's even been brought up. She just thinks that if the wider family knew, it would bring up a lot of weirdness. She swears that she has no interest in having any kind of relationship with her and that she's straight. I told her I didn't care about what she did that long ago, but that it needed to stop impacting our relationship in the present because I am the thinnest of thin hairs away from walking away forever. She, surprisingly, apologized again and said that she'd really try to work on it. I told her that I needed to see some proof of that so she can consider herself on probation. I told her that if I feel that it's happened again, I'll be taking our daughter to stay at my mum's. She accepted this, so we're proceeding cautiously. And guys, that was the end of the story for a very long time, a good 6-7 months. However, April the 3rd of this year, we got another update. Remember, the original was posted in August of 2022. So a lot of people thought that perhaps that was going to be the end and were wondering what would happen next. But yeah, in April, we got another update. Now, I will just say quickly before we get into it, it seems quite encouraging right now. I mean, the fact that your wife's accepting of all of this and is apologizing. However, the fact that I can see there's another update is not necessarily a good thing, but hey, we'll see. Here we go. I've posted here many times about issues I've had with my wife, most commonly with regards to her subservience to her best friend turned sister-in-law. She's promised to try and work on this, given how much it's impacted our marriage, but today, I think we passed the point of no return. You see, today is my birthday. It's past midnight now though. This morning, my daughter, who is nearly 4, gave me huge hugs and kisses, which was great. My wife gave me a card and told me that my gift hadn't arrived in the post yet. My suspicion is that she's yet to order it, or ordered it late, whatever it may be. I then logged into my work and did my shift like any other day. My wife was off work, while my daughter was at my mum's for a visit. Nothing special was planned for the evening because there were plans in place already. Just that those plans didn't include me. My wife's sister-in-law and a couple of my wife's other friends had arranged to go out for dinner and drinks because a voucher that her sister-in-law had for a particular restaurant expired soon, and my birthday was the only date they could all make. Terrible, right? Well, it gets better though, because my wife made a big social media post wishing me a happy birthday, saying how terrible it was that I had to work all night on my birthday, which is a complete lie, but it does make her look less bad in public for not spending my birthday with me. The issue is, because she's done this, I now couldn't make plans with friends or family without exposing her lie. So yeah, great birthday. When I think about how she'd react if I'd pulled half the stuff that she's pulled, I can't see it ending any other way than me getting screamed at, even though she's chosen to spend my birthday with her sister-in-law instead of me. On the plus side, I did some Warhammer painting after I collected my daughter and played with her a bit before bed. She also asked why mummy wasn't here, which kind of crushed me. Am I wrong to be annoyed about this? And there we go, my worst fears have come to fruition. It is really not looking good for you two, is all I'll say. First of all, of course you're not wrong to be annoyed about this. Are you joking? She's actively said that she's doing something else because you're busy. Like, making up this entire rumor and just downright lie on social media to make herself look good and allow her to go and do things with her friends on your birthday. Actually insane. And remember, guys, this is coming off the back of that heart-to-heart conversation. Well, I thought it was heart-to-heart, and I thought the apologies were legit back in August 2022 when we saw the previous update where your wife literally said, okay, I will focus on the marriage now and our daughter, not on my sister-in-law. But no, on your actual birthday, on her husband's birthday, she's off gallivanting with the girls. And that's pretty tough, not gonna lie. This does feel like this marriage may be coming to an end, but there is one more update that was posted 12 days later. I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but let's just say this is a conclusion. Here we go. I've separated from my wife. Hi again, everyone. I just wanted to say, firstly, thank you very much for all of your responses and private messages. Many of you were supportive, and many of you, rightfully, upon reflection, told me that I needed to grow some backbone and sort my stuff out. I've been sitting on this for a few days because the full events of what has transpired since then have blown my mind and have brought home some very harsh truths about my relationship. But I also wanted to see if what went down would actually stick, and so far it has. The fun question out of the way first. For those who were asking about my painting, I was painting some Thousand Suns Terminators. Okay, so starting the day after my birthday, my wife initiated sex. And let me tell you, this was an occasion in itself. I legitimately could not tell you the last time that this happened. It's been that long. I'm thinking to myself, maybe she's feeling guilty about yesterday and she's trying to make it up. After the deed was done, she turns around to me and says, "Your present won't be here for another couple of days. That will have to do for now." I'm pretty disappointed at this point. Not because I had a huge desire for a particular gift, but because she felt that her behavior the day before was fine, and then for her to think, I'll use sex to cover up my screw up. Well, that was also a bit of a blow. Whatever, I've sucked up worse before and powered through. What broke me was her opinion on her sister-in-law's birthday. Long story short, for those who don't know, she is possibly my least favorite person on the planet due to her parasitic behavior and main character syndrome. Coincidentally, it's a couple of weeks after mine. My wife told me all about her birthday plans for her. She wanted to get her a gift for her favorite massage therapist. What was the big deal? The shop only sells paper vouchers, and it's a 3-hour round trip to the shop. So off she went, again leaving me with my daughter, and what commenced next can only be described as 3 hours of my brain simmering slowly towards an explosion. I took my daughter to my brother's house because I knew that when my wife came back, I was going to explode. When she came back, I was sitting in the living room with a bag packed for me and, in an admittedly petty move, one packed for my daughter. This immediately got her attention, and she demanded to know what was going on. I unloaded it all. It wasn't coherent, and I definitely got more emotional as I unloaded more grievances. I started by telling her it was unacceptable how she completely screwed up my birthday while making her sister-in-law's birthday a major priority. How I was sick of feeling like a third wheel in my own marriage. How I'd literally sacrificed my personality on the altar of keeping her happy. And how I never saw my friends anymore, yet she could do whatever she wanted. How I take care of the house despite working more hours than her for not even a shred of gratitude. How she used a lack of sex as a tool of manipulation and control. I cried and shouted. She did the same and vehemently denied all of my accusations. She demanded to know where our girl was, and I told her. But I told her that she would not be using her as a bargaining chip against me. We eventually calmed down enough to agree that I would keep her at our house while she temporarily stayed with her mum and dad. I agreed to drop her off for visits while we work things out. It's been a few emotionally exhausting days. I feel drained, spent, and tired, but I have my little girl and I feel like I have done what I could. I don't know what my relationship status is right now. We've not been speaking except to arrange drop-offs, and I'm comfortable with that for now. I need some more time before I consider more permanent steps. I've never ever unloaded on her like this before, but Jesus Christ, it felt good, even if she continued to deny everything. And there we go. that is the conclusion of that one. Wow, a lot of stuff just happened at the end there that I can't quite believe, but maybe I should have seen it coming. You know, the whole time. The semi-crocodile tears, the fake apologies. I don't know, guys. I want you to comment down below on whatever platform you're on. Do you think that OP's wife, I mean, maybe now ex-wife, it's getting towards that stage, is in love, or at least has some sort of romantic desire for her sister-in-law? Because she openly admitted there was a drunken kiss. She's lied about other things, so maybe she's lied about there being more there. And she did seem very sheepish. And also, she clearly just loves her as a person anyway, even if it's not romantic. I don't know. I reckon there's a lot more going on there that OP hasn't really found out about because his wife isn't really saying all of the truth. I reckon she is in love with a woman. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. But I think that might just be the cornerstone, the big key to this entire story. I will say this whole story was really interesting on the behalf of OP, because I do kind of agree with some of the comments going along that surely at some point, like, you grow a backbone, right? You need to stand up for yourself. Why are you protecting your wife on social media when she's the one that's kind of just being an absolute rat to you? You know, if your wife says, it's a shame that my husband is working on his birthday and that's the reason why I'm doing these things with my friends, why don't you just say on social media, this is a lie? Or just tell people, yeah, that's actually just not true. She's just going to see her sister-in-law. I get it. You want to keep things, you know, acrimonious. You want to keep the peace. But you're probably a very nice guy as well. A selfless guy that just doesn't want to cause too much drama. Whereas your wife is clearly the very opposite of that. But I will say that, yeah, maybe you could have stepped things up a little bit earlier. I do love that you did it eventually, OP. As you said at the end right there, Jesus Christ, it felt good to unload. I feel like you have a lot of pent-up things that you need to say there and lots of grievances, as you said, and it's good to actually finally get them out and take those active steps towards a better life for you and your daughter, let's be completely honest. But yeah, I do kind of think that maybe you could have gone a little bit earlier, given that you had already mentioned about calling a divorce lawyer and all that stuff in August of 2022. And we're now, what, 7-8 months down the line and you're still not divorced. But that's just me. I'm not in that situation. I don't have a daughter, so it's tough to know. Guys, as always, get your comments in down below. I want to hear your thoughts. My girlfriend sold my car because of a petty argument. I am now suing her. So, for a bit of context, my girlfriend and I have known each other for around 4 years, but started dating during 2021. That car has been passed down for generations, by the way. It's a 1972 Ford F100. My grandpa owned it, then passed it down to my dad, then passed it down to me. I don't drive it too often, as I do have my own car, but I use it for work. Recently, we've gotten into an argument over me not taking care of our 2 cats. The thing is, I spend almost all day working and the rest of it resting. So, what did she do? She got the pickup truck, went to a junkyard, and sold it. The worst part, she sold it for $400. Keep in mind, this truck was in pristine condition. When I got back home from the bar, I noticed the pickup wasn't there. I asked her and she told me what she did. I instantly packed up my things, my cat, told her we were done, and left. I've been getting calls from her family, and friends every day calling me names. Am I in the wrong? Well, before we even get into an update, first of all, we have a comment from OP, which tells us all about the arguments. The first time, we had an argument over chores. The last argument we had was about her disappearing on me for 9 hours without any previous notice. That was about a month ago. The thing is, it's not like I just didn't take care of the cats at all. I was just really busy with work and got back home really tired. Also keep in mind that I was the breadwinner in the house. I had an agreement that she would do the chores and I would put food on the table. I still love the cats and I fed them. Okay, now for the first update, which is posted just a day later. Thanks for all the advice and support. 2 things. I've talked to my lawyer cousin. He said I could have a solid case if this goes to court, but honestly, after all the trash I've been through, I want my pickup back and some more for what happened. I doubt the police are going to do anything after a couple of bad experiences I've had with them. My ex came knocking on my door. I ignored her. I don't want anything to do with that female dog anymore. My dad also got the news and was super sad, considering that truck was pretty much the family's breadwinner for about 30 years. Okay, moving straight on to update 2. Thanks for even more advice. I've now filed a police report for the stolen F100. I hope it can be done. I'm also doing my own bit of research, driving to a couple of nearby junkyards, but I doubt I'll find it on my own. I hope we can find the old green F100 we love so much. Next update, posted on the same day, the F100 has been found at a nearby junkyard by a friend. Thanks for all the support, guys. Well, that is unbelievable news. Now moving on to update 4. So, people have been asking these things, and I feel like I should clarify. 1. It is not like I took no care of the cats at all. She doesn't work. I put the bread on the table, she gets the house chores done. That is how we've managed it, which is why I feel like this was petty. 2. I went to a bar that evening to hang out with a friend that I hadn't seen in 5 years. I don't drink heavily or often. I guess OP is kind of saying that it wasn't as if he was going out every night and leaving his girlfriend to do everything. And 3. The signature to sell it was forged by my girlfriend, from what I know at the moment. Or the junkyard guy just took it because it was a $9.6 thousand profit. The junkyard opens at 12:30 a.m. today, and since it's currently 5 a.m. here, I'm still going to have to wait for a while. As you might be able to tell, today was quite a crazy day. Haven't gotten 1 minute of sleep. Okay, I guess all these updates came pretty much back to back over the course of this evening. Wow. What a day and night for OPA. Now here is the amazing update that we've all been waiting for. So, I have the F100 back. Over a day of no sleep, work and panic, and it's finally over. She's been charged with a Class 1 felony for stealing a car worth more than $10,000. She's been fined $5,000. Finally back from the garage with the truck. I'm so tired. I'll take a nap now. I'll update you guys more thoroughly tomorrow. I don't feel like explaining every detail right now. It's 7:09 p.m. and I'm really tired of this freaking trash. And then just 2 days on from the date of the original post, we got this final update. I have the truck back. The F100 is actually back. I did have to pay the $400 though, and it's not as good as it was before. It's really dirty, probably from driving to the junkyard, which is pretty dirty, and the bodywork that was once pristine is now damaged. There's a huge scratch on the paint. It was a really sharp key or something because the bodywork is now ruined. It started flash rusting, which is really not good. The paint is ruined and the truck itself isn't as great as before. I can tell that she broke the brake fluid line as well because the brakes are running badly. Good news though, as previously mentioned, my girlfriend has been charged with a C1F for GTA and fined the $5K. But don't worry though, I will still follow through with the lawsuits. So there we go guys, that is the end of this story. Now, as you can see on screen if you are watching on YouTube, amazingly, this entire episode was actually put into a Newsweek article that was deemed newsworthy. Man suing ex-girlfriend for selling his family heirloom, done with her. The quote. And you know what? I completely agree. What a story. And a couple of really intense days, I guess, for OP. Back to back updates showed that. But, you know, justice was done in the end. Now, look, of course, it is a shame that the car was damaged and isn't in its original state. But nonetheless, that is a lot better than the alternative, which is never seeing that car again. Not only losing out on the $10,000 worth of value, of course, but also the incredible history of that car and the place that it holds in your family's heritage, I guess. The fact that it was the breadwinner for 30 years, gone like that over just a petty argument, that is incredible. I mean, wow. Justice has been done though. I really hope, I don't know if this is too harsh to say, that 5K really affects your ex-girlfriend because she deserves it. Okay, now for our next best of Redditor updates post. My girlfriend dated me because of a dare. My girlfriend, who is 17, and I, an 18-year-old male, have been dating for 5 months. Before we started dating, I had a crush on her for roughly a year. It was quite well known, since one of my old friends spilled it directly to her and her friends. They giggled for some time, but she never made a move on me or spoke to me about it. We're just classmates and we aren't close. Now, for New Year's, she hosted a birthday party for her 17th birthday. I was overjoyed and happily came. It was a great party, though I was mostly off to the side since my old friends were mainly mingling with other people. Now, a few days afterwards, she came up to me and asked to meet me after school. We agreed at the park, to where she confessed that she had feelings for me and wanted to be a couple. I was over the moon and we began dating that day. Our relationship was pretty solid. We didn't get into many fights, but she wasn't all that affectionate, which I was fine with. We never got intimate and mainly did small things like cuddling. Skip to 5 months. She was in my home and in the kitchen making herself a snack. Her phone was buzzing and she asked me to bring it over. Her phone settings are such that you can see the first line of a message on her lock screen. The phone also automatically turns on whenever she receives a notification. I took a glimpse and it was one of her friends. Now, I didn't take a good look, but it read something like, "When is the breakup happening?" which immediately attracted my attention. I unlocked her phone since I knew her password prior. I then read a few more messages where they were talking about a prank they pulled on me. I confronted her about it and she went silent. After some prodding, she confessed. During her birthday, one of her friends dared her to ask me out. She got guilty when we continued dating for months upon months. It was supposed to be a one-time thing with a simple date at a restaurant. They planned to hook me up with someone and frame me for cheating in the next few weeks, so she had a valid reason to break up with me. It also gave the other girls a chance to spread rumors about me. We got into a huge fight, and I told her to leave and that we are done. It's only been a few hours, and I am absolutely devastated. I really like this girl, and she decided that it was a fun idea to pull on my heartstrings. I don't know what to do. Her things are still here, so I'm gonna put it all in a box and leave it outside. She's been texting me, apologizing, trying to explain herself. I blocked her friends' numbers since they were also harassing me. I haven't blocked her just yet since we have to get each other's stuff from the others' houses, but after that, I'll be going no contact. Luckily, the school year is almost over and I'm graduating, so I don't have to see her again. But still, I'm really upset. It hurts, man. Okay then, moving on to the first update posted just a day later. I honestly didn't expect to post an update so soon. But since I did agree to pick up my things today while also dropping hers off, I don't know why I expected nothing to happen. A lot of you pointed out that she may have fallen in love with me during our relationship. But it doesn't matter if she did or not. She broke my trust and I'm no longer attracted to her after yesterday. She allowed her friends to talk trash about me and plotted to destroy my reputation. She's weak-minded and I'm not going to further date someone who will pick their abusive friends over their romantic interest. Do I feel bad? A little, but I tried warning her and she did not listen. So now on to the actual updates. I went to my ex's house with a friend of mine since no way in heck am I going there alone. Right before school I went. I didn't see my things outside, so I rung the doorbell. Her father came out and handed my things to me while I gave him her things. He asked if I'd cheated on her since she's crying in her room about it. So yeah, more of you were right about them spreading rumors and trying to blast me. I explained that I didn't and even showed the screenshots that I had on my phone. I guess OP is referring to her crazy friends spreading rumors and yeah, good thing you had those screenshots OP so you could back up your point and make sure that her father knew the truth. I actually ended up sending him a screenshot through his phone. He thanked me and said he'll take a look at it. I told him if he didn't believe me through that, well then look at her phone. My friends and I then left to go back home and get ready for school. I'm happy I got my guitar back since it's really the only thing I valued. After school, I got a call from my ex's dad. He apologized for the accusations and he said that he found the group chat of the girls and the hookup plans. He said he was going to punish his daughter and find these friends' parents. He got their names already and he's prodding my ex to know where they live. I told him he could use my screenshots as evidence to back me up. Props to the dad for being calm about this. And that's really all that happened. I know her dad and he's a scary man. He's 6 foot and built. He can be very intimidating and I know that my ex will give up the information. It's only a matter of time before the girls fall. I'll be keeping an eye out since I have a week left of school. If anything happens, I'll post another update. I'm not interested in finding their socials and seeing if they've already started spreading the whole cheating rumors. I'm sure they have done. However, everything was fine at school. But now it's the weekend, so I may receive some backlash when I return. But I honestly don't care. I got accepted into a college and I'm ditching this place. I just need to survive this week and graduation. My ex's dad will do all the heavy work. And then, 9 days later, we got this final update. Man, sorry it took so long. I got busy with graduation and was waiting for things to be finished up. Now that I think they are, this may be the final update to conclude this mess. My ex got grounded, of course. All technology has been stripped away and she was forced to delete all her socials in front of her dad, besides Facebook because of family connections. She isn't allowed out of the house and he's hoping to get her a job over the summer. All that money will be directly funded to her college savings and none will go to her spending. So, LMAO. Her dad also messaged me that she ended up ratting out her friends' addresses and he went to each house to talk to the parents. I don't know what happened to them, but some were furious at graduation. I know they had a huge fight with my ex and everyone dropped her as a friend. They dropped each other as well. The whole friend group basically crumbled except like 2 of them. I'm pretty sure my ex probably has 1 or 2 friends left, if any at all. She was well popular, but then dropped to the bottom of the food chain. It's hilarious. Now, none of the girls actually confronted me except for my ex. I met her after graduation, where I was heading back to the car with my parents. She stopped me midway. She apologized profusely and admitted she never actually saw me as a lover, but as a best male friend. God, that makes it even worse. 5 months with no real, sexual attraction, actual relationship, wanting in all of that time? That is truly terrible. She realized how much we had in common when she took me on that day and wanted to get to know me more, but she's a lesbian. She wanted to keep the charade of us pretending to be lovebirds so that her friends wouldn't think she's a freak for liking girls. They're quite homophobic and would have dropped her. They did anyways, so... She also used the whole prank card as an excuse to not break up, since I could have told people and word would have been spread around and it could have ruined her reputation too. Which is why they did the whole getting me framed for cheating thing. I'm surprised that she suspended it for several months and it got that far. It's impressive actually. If I hadn't caught her in time, she probably would have just gone through with it due to pressure. So basically, she used me so that people think she's straight, and also not to ruin her reputation if it came out that it was a prank to date me. The only thing that I forgave her for was her being a lesbian. I am a straight cis male, but I can't imagine how scary it might be to be in a circle full of homophobes, whom you've known since you were kids, if you were gay. She didn't want to be discarded as a social outcast. Now, I'm sure she would have found plenty of friends who would have accepted her for who she is. We don't live in the 1900s. But still, I do understand why. I honestly would have rather her come out as lesbian than use our relationship as a prank though. It would have been so much easier to handle. In the end, I told her to leave me alone and that I've blocked her. She understood and left. She was sobbing so much and actually having a panic attack in the parking lot. I had to drag her away from my parents at one point since I didn't want them finding out what's really been going on. I only told them that we broke up and that was a final conversation to clear things up. Now, I do feel bad for her, but I can't help her. I do hope though that she finds better friends, honestly. Anyways, that is all for the update. I told her dad that I made a Reddit post about this situation. I didn't want to out her, so I asked him to ask her if it would be okay. She actually said yes. I don't know if she's read my post or not, but she definitely now knows that I wrote about her to Reddit. Oops. Well, there we go. That is the end of that one. And to be honest, I do completely agree with OP. The moment that OP said about, really, she was kind of just semi-using him to cover up the fact that she is a lesbian and that she had real worries and concerns about coming out as a lesbian. And that was the main reason, or at least one of the main reasons as to why she maintained her relationship with OP. I do feel that. I do feel that. And that is a tough one. It's a spot that I can only really sympathize with. It's one that, I'm not going to be in myself, and I can't really imagine how tough that may be. However, that all being said, you still, I'm talking to the ex-girlfriend now, completely used OP and messed with his emotions for your own personal gain. Yes, clearly it seems that she does feel terrible about the way that she handled things and the fact that she did maintain this relationship for so long in the knowledge that she didn't really believe in it and it wasn't a real relationship. However, that doesn't take away from the fact that you've kind of just kidded OP for 5 months and wasted his time and, yeah, as OP said, really messed with his emotions. For that, you don't really deserve any sympathy. However, it is a tough one. Knowing that all your friends are homophobic and you yourself are a lesbian, yeah, I do feel for you in that situation. But then again, you could also find some friends that love you for who you are. I don't know. It's a tough one. You did a terrible thing. OP, I feel really horrible for you. At least now you can move on with your life. Just imagine if you hadn't found out for months and months and maybe even years on end. That could have been truly terrible. But yeah, all in all, a great post with a decent resolution. I met my wife's boyfriend and felt like a guest in my home. This weekend, I met my wife's new boyfriend. I have a lot of feelings about it. And although my wife listened to me, she literally said, "I don't know how to respond to your concerns." And that ended the conversation. To set the stage, this was not our first time meeting the other's partners. I have met a now ex-boyfriend of hers, and she met my current girlfriend. In both of those cases, we went out to lunch in public and had a friendly getting to know you conversation, did a second activity, and then parted ways. There was no touching between anyone during the initial meetings. It was just a friendly Hinge chat to introduce matters. This weekend, my wife had invited her boyfriend over for breakfast and didn't prep for it at all. She was in bed minutes before he arrived and sent me to the store to buy everything we needed. I said we should go out at that point. but she said she wanted to cook. When I got home, he was already in my house with my wife in the master bedroom while she was getting ready. This made me tense because we've never had other people in our bedroom before, and my wife had previously marked it as her hard boundary. I was nervous about meeting this guy because we had a 3-way phone call a month ago and I wasn't digging his personality. Now I was on edge because of the groceries, because she wasn't ready, and because he was in my space. The guy comes out of my bedroom and he's wearing a full suit and tie while I'm in t-shirt and jeans. I perceived this as an odd choice and a power imbalance. My wife later told me he always wears suits, but that literally isn't true because after breakfast he changed clothes to go on a date with her and ended up in a t-shirt and jeans. So let me get this straight. He wore a suit for breakfast, then changed out of it for the rest of the day. What? We sit down at the table and my wife starts cooking. Already this is uncomfy to me because the hinge is missing from our conversation. Previously, we sat down at a table together, but my wife was effectively uninvolved in me meeting him for the first time, just occasionally chiming in while cooking. And we didn't really vibe. We'd ask each other a question or two, and then it would peter out until a new topic came up. When the conversation died down, the boyfriend just spews sexual comments, saying that he wants to bend her over the kitchen table right now, that she should stop cooking and do stuff with us, asking if we want to jump into a threesome right now, etc. When we previously spoke on the phone, this is part of what made me uncomfy, because the conversation was going well until he hyperfixated on sex, and any other conversation broke down. I had previously conveyed this to my wife after the call, but I'm ashamed to say I didn't stand up for myself. I have difficulty saying what I want to in the moment. I was also trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I didn't want to be too aggressive when meeting him for the first time. My wife sits down with plates of food, and the guy asks if he can sit next to her. We have a square table with a chair on each side. He picked up his chair and sat on the same side of the table as her. Now, that was super weird to me and made me uncomfortable. My wife later insisted he always does this. My beef is that it felt like he didn't view this as an opportunity to meet me, he viewed it as a date with my wife, and also I was there. After the plates were put away, I went to the bathroom and came back to them making out in the kitchen. This was my first time visually seeing my wife with another person, and I was fine with it, but then, as I started doing the dishes, he pushed her down on the couch and fully got on top of her, making out and groping her. My wife said no and pushed him off, so we went to the bathroom. At this point, I talked to my wife and said that her boyfriend was making me extremely uncomfortable in my own home and that I wanted him to tone it down. He walked up behind me, having gone in the hall but not actually gone to the bathroom, and said, "Don't mind me, I'm not eavesdropping." I asked my wife to meet me in private to express my frustration. She said that this is just how he is. I said we didn't talk about boundaries for this meeting. I assumed it would be like the other 2 meetings we've had, that I explained previously, and that many of the things he's done had crossed lines for me and made me feel uncomfortable in my house. She says to give her a minute and she'll take care of it. I return to the kitchen and he's changing clothes. He brought all his clean laundry in a suitcase and was cycling through outfits, asking my wife what she thought of each. I later told my wife that was extremely weird to me, especially since she went out there with the intent to tell him to tone it down. She said the alternative was that she and he go into the bathroom while he changes. Fast forward, they leave to go on their date. I stay busy the rest of the day and can't get a hold of my wife from noon to midnight. I go to bed having asked her to check in 3 times. Called her and no response. At 4 AM, she woke me up to ask if he could spend the night because they'd been out until 3:30 AM and it was an hour drive back to his house. I said no because we'd planned a full day, just us, for the next day. My wife went out to talk to him, then came back and said he was too tired to drive and asked me to reconsider. I'm barely awake, so I begrudgingly say fine. My wife promises not to stay out so late again and we go to bed. Boyfriend sleeps in the guest room. My wife and I had planned to go to breakfast, but had to put a pause on that because the boyfriend hadn't woken up by 10 AM. I say we can get drive-through breakfast, and my wife sends me out alone because she doesn't want him to wake up in the house by himself. She tells me he'll be gone by the time I get back. At 10:45, I get home, and he's still there. My wife comes down and makes him coffee because we didn't get him anything, because he was supposed to be gone already. I told my wife point blank I wanted him to leave because this was our day together and we'd already had to change plans because of him. She said that would be rude and that we still had the whole rest of the day just us. He ended up staying until noon. He didn't say a word to me as he sat at the table drinking coffee and then fist bumped me goodbye. When he finally left, my wife asked how I thought it went. I expressed everything I've described here. Told her his personality made me uncomfortable, he ignored me, made me feel like a guest in my house, I didn't appreciate him spending the night, etc, etc, etc. My wife said, "Thank you for being honest. I don't know how to respond to your concerns. It's important to me that you like him. I need to think about this." And shut the conversation down for now so that we could focus on our planned day. I don't know how to handle all of this. I do not like this man. Okay, there we go. That is it for the original post. Now, everything I say from this point onwards, I'm saying in the context of knowing that this is posted on r/polyamory, right? So I'm not going to say anything about, okay, if you don't like him, then you should talk to your wife and just try and be with her one-on-one, stuff like that. It's not worth me saying. Polyamory is already, a pretty contentious thing. I don't agree with it, but, people like it. And that's up to them. OP and his wife seem pretty content with that. And I'm not going to argue against that. So just want to make that abundantly clear before we focus on this post. Now, in terms of advice that I could give OP just off the rip, I don't know. This guy just seems like an awful bloke. But if your wife's into him, I don't really know what you can say other than she's being extremely disrespectful by not really listening to your opinion at all. I don't know exactly how polyamory works. Maybe one day I will. I doubt it. But all I will say is that surely if you are married to somebody, even if you are polyamorous, they're the person that you have to respect the most. I don't know. Anyone watching or listening that loves a little bit of that, let me know in the comments down below if that's how it works. Maybe I'm wrong. However, where this story really takes a turn for the worst is in the update. I mean, not saying it's not weird already, but just a month later, we got this update with a truly terrifying title. Everyone met my wife's boyfriend and fears for her safety. So, a lot has happened since my last post. Using the advice I got from r/polyamory, I set a clear boundary with my wife that I did not want to interact with her boyfriend again and that he wasn't welcome in the house while I was there. I expressly stated how uncomfortable he made me with specific examples. I used a lot of the advice folks gave here and I came to an understanding. True to form, I have not seen the boyfriend since then. But then things got worse. I was out of town for the weekend and my wife had the boyfriend over for 2 whole days. In that time, he met our 2 housemates and made them both extremely uncomfortable. He met my girlfriend's parents as well and made them extremely uncomfortable. And he and my wife had loud sex in the guest room at 2 a.m. and kept our roommate awake when she had work the next day. The roommate actually interrupted them because it was keeping her awake. And this was after they'd set a house rule that they'd not do this, as it's already happened once before. On Sunday morning, while I was away, I woke up to angry text messages from both our roommates, describing what they called serial killer behavior. Both said they were furious and extremely uncomfortable. Interesting to me is they both described the same pretend to go to the bathroom to cover eavesdropping in the hallway thing that I described previously. This made me upset, as I obviously want my housemates to feel safe. On my way home on Sunday, my mother-in-law called to say she had Father's Day brunch with my wife and her new boyfriend, and he made the whole extended family extremely uncomfortable, such that they don't want to interact with him again. This was extremely irritating because my wife did not tell me that she intended to introduce the boyfriend to her family at all, which is also my family because of marriage/estrangement to my bio family. At this point, I say enough is enough. I'd been texting my housemates and called a house meeting as soon as I got home. My roommate, who was kept awake, started by saying, "I hate this man. I never want to see him again. I am politely asking that you do not let him back in the house at all." Then my next roommate said something very similar, as did I. My wife asked if we all feel this way. I said, "Everyone you have introduced them to feels this way. Everyone." Realizing how badly the weekend had gone for everyone else and that brunch hadn't gone as well as she thought, my wife was taken aback. As many people here on Reddit said, both of my roommates said their boyfriend terrifies them, that he acts like a serial killer, and that they're concerned for her safety. My wife then said, "Yeah, that's what I like about him." Okay, that is wow. How do you even reply to that? We went around stating what he had done to make us uncomfortable, and my wife started to shut down. She didn't try to defend him, she didn't say anything, she stopped responding, until finally one of our roommates asked if she had anything to say. She didn't try to defend him, she didn't say anything. She stopped responding, until finally one of our roommates asked if she had anything to say. She said she wished we had told her this sooner because she had just said "I love you" to him earlier that day, which was news to me. She asked why nobody had told her sooner, and the answer was that he was attached to her hip for 2 days and he looks over her shoulder to read all her phone messages. After a lot of discussion, my wife agreed that she would not bring her boyfriend around if anyone was at the house. She said that probably means he won't come back to the house at all. She also said she wouldn't ask anyone to leave so he could come over, and that he wasn't invited to parties. Except that she'd already invited him to an upcoming party at our house next weekend, and she wasn't strong enough to uninvite him, but also that she is afraid everyone at the party will hate him and be made uncomfortable. Your wife has no backbone. Moreover, she told me that she's going to continue seeing him. Now, while I understand this, it also made me a little sad. 2 weeks ago, she'd said that if I ever hated one of her partners, then she and that person could not be compatible. At this point, her best friends, her husband, and her parents were saying that they never want to see this man again and that they're afraid for her safety. And she no longer seemed bothered. I don't know what is going to happen next. I'm sincerely hoping he does not come to the party next week. And my roommates and my mother-in-law have each individually shared that they're afraid he is going to try to kill either my wife or me. Now, yeah, I mean, sometimes, okay. Normally, right, when I start these like little commentaries at the end, I think a little bit about what I'm going to say before I press record, right? Now with this one, I haven't done that because I just want to convey my raw reaction, like without a second of thinking, just immediately after reading this. And this is the fact that I'm actually completely befuddled by what I've just read and pretty much speechless. For maybe the first time in my life, you have someone that everyone has said acts like a serial killer, but then you're saying, you know what, that's why I like him. Now, that's tough. It really is tough to hear if you're OP. What I genuinely would say to OP, if you're watching, mate, I know we go a long way back, and we're both not. I'm not going to take the mick out polyamory. Sorry, I won't do that. What I will say to you, OP, is, and I'm leaving that in, by the way. Do you really want to be with somebody who acts like this and says, "Oh, why didn't you guys tell me earlier? Like, are you stupid?" She must be stupid. It's so obvious. I mean, maybe, unless she was just completely transfixed by this guy. I don't know. If someone is hated that much by literally every person you know in your life, that should be obvious. Like, unless you are an ostrich and your head is in the sand, run that back. That's what I say. Come on, man. We're not living in the dark age anymore. Get your head out the sand. Are you an ostrich? That is my question. Can I say, actually, if any of you get that reference, then you have surprised me. It's a weird one. It really is. I just think, from your perspective, OP, you have to make that decision yourself now. Do you want to be with your wife if she is the sort of person that is going to continue seeing someone that literally everyone in the world hates and that may well be a serial killer? I don't know. That decision is up to you. As for the story, wow. I am at a loss as to what to do with my wife's request. My wife and I have been married since 2001 and been together since 1999. She is the most intelligent, thoughtful, caring, loyal person I know, and I've always thought of myself as fortunate to have met and married her. She is, even today, aesthetically beautiful, and men have told her this throughout our marriage. She's always shot them down. Now, earlier this year, she was diagnosed with uterine cancer, stage 1, and had a full hysterectomy. I was never concerned about the cancer. It was diagnosed early, dealt with quickly, and she made a full recovery. I took time off work to look after her after the surgery, and all seemed well. There were some to be expected emotional instances on her parts, and although I am not an emotional person, we dealt with them together. After her recovery, she was insistent that we start living life to the fullest, and took a 10-day trip to Europe, followed by a trip to Belize. We also have a trip to the UK and Spain and Portugal later this year. Now, I'm fine with these things, building memories and crossing bucket list adventures off of her and our list. I also understand that these are a result of feeling fragile on her part. She also took up yoga, swimming, and healthy cooking classes. I was fully on board until last week. Last week, she came home from work and told me she wanted a hall pass, a one-time opportunity for her to have sex with someone else besides me. She said that since her cancer diagnosis, her outlook on life has changed and she doesn't want to be handcuffed from doing things she wants to do. She explained that there's a guy at her work that she's always had some attraction to. He is leaving the company and she'll never see him again, so this is the perfect opportunity to sleep with someone else. She said that I could say no, of course, but that she would be mad and disappointed at me for an indeterminate amount of time, and that it would be confirmation of my male toxicity and insecurity. I don't consider myself to be toxic, and if not wanting your wife of 20 plus years to have sex with someone else is insecure, then guess I'm insecure. I told her that I appreciated her talking to me about this, but approval via coercion is not approval. I also said that I do not appreciate her language in describing my, as of yet, unknown reaction to this very large issue that could affect the rest of our marriage and life. I got up in the morning and she basically said that she was sorry for putting such a large decision solely on my shoulders, and that to help, she was taking the decision away from me. She booked a hotel near where her co-workers are having a party / send-off for this guy, and she would spend the night there with him and hope that I would be here when she got back. That she would answer any questions I have about the night after it happened, but not before. She will not tell me who he is or anything about him because she knows me too well and that I will dwell and obsess over him, and that would make it too real for me, which is pretty accurate. Her POV is that the less I know, the better, which contradicts the offer to tell me anything I want to know after it happened. I think she knows I won't want to know or ask anything, or she simply just won't tell me. Part of me thinks at least she's been honest with me, and she's been through a lot since finding out she had cancer, so maybe I should just let it happen. I certainly have no concept of what she went through, so I cannot dismiss how this affected her mental state or outlook on life. Part of me wants to put my foot down and say this is not going to happen and deal with those consequences when they happen. Her BFF called me callous for even suggesting that I wouldn't let it happen because I have no idea what she went through. I find it hard to believe that she is okay with the possibility of throwing away 20 plus years of marriage over some guy that she has had no relationship with outside of work, and that I should just call her bluff. Maybe she thinks similarly that I won't throw away the marriage because of one encounter. I just don't know what to do. I empathize with her, and then an instant later I'm angry with her. Part of me wants to know who this guy is. What does he look like? What has he got that is so enthralling for her? Is he just a safe option? Is he married? Does his wife know? Would I be a callous jerk for saying no? What can I do besides walking away? Okay, now, where do we even begin? Now, of course, this is best of Redditor updates, so we're going to get a lot more content here. But off the rip, I've got to say, what a load of absolute rubbish. I know multiple people, multiple couples in which one of them has gone through cancer and they survive. And they don't just then go, you know what? Yeah, I've survived this. I'm not going to go around shagging like a legend. They just don't do that. It's very abnormal. Now, the whole part about your wife ticking things off your and her collective bucket list is great. Traveling, making her realize and making you guys realize that life is short. It can end at any moment. It's good to do things you want to do whilst you have the chance to do them. Completely fine until you get to having sex with one of your co-workers, forcing your husband to be okay with it. That's probably a little bit too far. At that point, I think, how about just end the marriage and move on with your life? It's just very, very strange. What I love the most, and by love I mean just cannot get at all, is her saying, no, you have to let me do this because, by the way, I had cancer and therefore you have to let me cheat on you. It's on you. Like her saying, you know what, I'm just going to take the decision out of your hands. Don't worry. I'll just take the decision out of your hands. Don't worry about me. It's so great. I love it. Nonetheless, let's carry on and let's get into this comment which was posted on the original, which I think is really, really good. Kind of think this is the way your marriage will be from now on. With her epiphany, she wants to relive her life and she's going to do it regardless of your feelings. I think she's being rather selfish and probably only threatens this because she thinks you are beaten down and will simply put up with it. Perhaps not the best time for trips and frills. She wants a single life. Let her see what that means. I agree. I feel like, obviously it's very, very tough for you. And I completely understand what you're going through in the sense that you say that 1 second you're like, no way am I ever going to let her do this. I'm going to call her bluff, go and do it. She won't. And then the next you're like, oh, well, I do love her so much. And she did also have cancer. That's going to be very mentally taxing. Oh, by the way, I'm not for 1 second saying that I know what that's like or how it feels or I can empathize with that in any way. I obviously can't. But I agree with this commenter. It gets to a stage where you got to just say to her, yeah,
obviously you're not allowed to do this. I don't care. And also, what's your best friend saying about you can't not let her do this? She had cancer. Again, terrible friend. Sorry, very obvious. You have to call her bluff. You have to just say, you know what, this is going to hurt me, but go and do it. And if you do it, that's the end. It is weird though, 20 plus years of marriage and that, wow. Now OP has actually replied to a couple of comments from the original saying this. She thinks because she'll never see this guy again and that I have never met him, supposedly, that it won't really affect me or our marriage in the long term. I'm left with accepting it and never viewing her the same way again, or going through a divorce at 54. Not really great options on either front. That is a very fair point. I don't know where her head is, and the bout with cancer is affecting her in ways that I couldn't possibly imagine. I don't think she believes I will leave. There we go. I mean, you've pretty much said exactly what I think there. You have to test that though. If she doesn't think that you'll leave, you have to actually leave and then see what her reaction is. Because then, if she goes and does this thing anyway, you know that sadly, very, very sad and painfully, though it may be, it was the right decision for you to do that, because otherwise you'd just be a massive cuck. And secondly, you have to test her. You just have to, because she can't just get away with stuff like this for the rest of your life together, because even if you do stay together, you'll just be miserable. So unfortunately, that is the only thing you can really do. Now, let's get into the update that was posted just a few days later. I received a ton of advice that I couldn't possibly respond to. I do appreciate the people who took time to offer advice in the comments or via PM. It's been an exhausting couple of days. I was hoping that my opposition to her plans would give her pause, but unfortunately that did not happen. I said I am a hard no, and I'm not sure how I will feel about you if you go ahead with it. I was met once again with, this is for me, it will be one time. What can I say to help you deal with it? You'll get over it. We were meant to be regardless of the situation. Remarks leading up to Saturday. Some of the most selfish words there that I've ever heard, despite the fact that this woman went through cancer. At this point, I honestly don't really care. That's insane. So she left on Saturday, ostensibly to meet her co-workers, but in reality to screw the guy. I asked her to text me when she was leaving for the bar, and when she did, I asked her if she was really going to go through with this. After her response was this, I'm not answering any more questions tonight, I will see you tomorrow, I blocked my wife. Then, I did something either stupid or brilliant. I went to the bar where the get-together was happening. You know what, I love this. Well, not the bar, but a transit bench across the street. I waited for a long time. It was running through my mind leading up to this event that I need to know who this guy was, maybe to compare myself against him, to see what he had that I do not. It was driving me crazy not knowing who he was and what was so special about him that she would ruin a marriage for. After what seemed like an eternity, a woman that I recognized from my wife's office left the bar and got in a cab. Soon, other people started filing out and a whole group came out and people were hugging a man and shaking his hand. I assumed that I had my guy. I didn't see my wife, and I had a brief thought that maybe she had called it off. I unblocked her, but there were no messages. Everyone said their goodbyes and left. The dude was standing outside for a few minutes, and then my wife came out. She looked around, took his hand, and they started walking away together. Of all the emotions I went through, trepidation, sadness, anger, it was disgust that really encapsulated the event for me. This guy was short, fat, and bald. All the things I cannot compete with. Ultimately, I felt like a pervert for watching from a distance. I followed until they got to the hotel and then turned around and went home. I woke up Sunday morning and put a lock on the master bedroom door. I moved her things to the spare room and left a note asking her to find another accommodation as quickly as possible. I visited another friend who's a lawyer and he gave me some sage advice and a couple of recommendations for divorce attorneys and made the introductions. My wife has been calling me numerous times since around 11 or so. Once blocked, the calls go to voicemail. I listened to the first couple but felt nothing but some satisfaction when she couldn't get through to me and she was obviously becoming concerned. I didn't want to go home, but I left in such a hurry that I didn't plan an overnight properly. I got home around 9 and as per my buddy's advice, I recorded the interaction. I was halfway up the stairs when she came up from the family room asking what was going on. Could we talk? I thought we talked about this. I just answered with, I am not interested in discussing this tonight, and went to bed. After not getting a response from me through the door, she left me alone. I feel kind of like a child for not talking with her and shutting the door on her, but I just couldn't look at her. Monday, I got up and ready for work. she was waiting for me and asked if we could discuss getting back to normal. I said, "You've been doing all the talking for the both of us for the last week. Why don't you just continue?" And I left for work. I have an appointment with the attorneys that my friend recommended for this week. And there we go, guys. That is the end of that one. I don't really know quite what to make about this story because I feel like we've just encountered one of the most stupid women of all time. She is surprised when her husband of 20 years is annoyed at her because she cheated on him, not just with anyone, but with a short, fat, bald man. I mean, does it get any worse? Look, I'm all for short kings and bald kings and also fat kings. What a trifecta that is. Listen, if you're short, bald and fat, get in the comments down below. Are you this bloke? I want to know. Now, one thing I will say before getting myself in trouble is that there is another comment here that I want to highlight because I think it's a very good comment that kind of, in all seriousness, encapsulates my thoughts. Here it is. I can only hope that you've decided to do what's best for you. At the end of the day, you're the one that has to live with your decisions. From the previous post, it's obvious that your wife, and I use that term merely as a placeholder, has made her decision. I know that having something that has been such a huge part of your life end can be daunting, but sometimes it's for the best. And yeah, I think this time it absolutely is for the best. You clearly made the right decision. Your wife's dumb, and she's also unfaithful. What a terrible, terribly potent combination. Good stuff, OP. Right, now our final story from this episode is actually one chosen by one of you guys. One of you added me on Twitter saying, "Do you remember that face tattoo story that I narrated about 6 months, 12 months ago?" And I said, "You know what, I do." And then they said, "There's actually been an update to that post. If you don't remember the original, I will link it down below. It's probably on screen right now as well, the thumbnail, or behind the I button." Pretty much, this woman gets a face tattoo and then wonders why her fiance is annoyed at her. Like, she doesn't even tell him, she just does it. And then it's like, "Oh, what? Don't you like it?" He's like, "No." To be honest, it's quite a silly story. But one of you told me on Twitter that there's been an update, and there has. Just a week ago, we got this update. So here we go. About 9 months ago, my ex-fiance, Kim, got a face tattoo without telling anyone. This was just the start of her doing everything she could to ruin her life. She broke up with me and called off our 7-year relationship when I questioned why she did this. She worked in a client-facing job for an incredibly large financial institution and was let go within a month of showing back up for work after getting the tattoo. I kept in contact with Kim's sister, hoping for some news. They tried to get her help as they thought she was having some kind of psychotic break. However, she eventually called the police on her own family, claiming they were harassing her. After that, I decided to just walk away. Now, Kim didn't just destroy her own life. When she broke up with me, I felt numb. I knew this wasn't Kim doing this. I wanted to believe deep down that Kim was always like this. Always this impulsive, crazy, who would ruin her life by getting a face tattoo. I tried to convince myself that I'd not lost the wonderful woman who I'd spent 7 years of my life with. However, clearly the person who made these choices was not Kim. The woman who told me over the phone she hated my guts for not supporting her. The woman who wrote she hated me and only ever stayed with me out of pity. That was not the woman I asked to marry. That was not Kim. That was someone who I came to find out was having a mental breakdown. That resulted in months of bad decisions that will affect the rest of her life. The day I walked away and told her sister I could not deal with it anymore was the worst day of my life. It hit me like a train. The numbness and denial of what I lost hit me all at once. I almost quit my own job and moved back home to my parents. I can only thank my boss for being so understanding that she let me take 4 weeks off to deal with what happened. She and the rest of my team went far beyond what should ever be expected of co-workers and management, that it makes me realize how close I was to leaving a job I actually enjoy. I never moved on from Kim, but I came to accept what had happened. I thought I was okay until 2 weeks ago. I got a call from Kim. She'd blocked my number and done everything she could to remove me from her life. My mind just blanked when I saw it was her calling. I picked up and it was actually her. We didn't talk. I didn't know what to say to her. We decided she would come over to my place and then we talked. The tattoo is still there, but she's covering it up now with makeup. She says when she has the funds, she's going to look into getting it removed if possible. She's lost a lot of weight since I last saw her. She's not been able to find a new job. She'll probably need to move to a new city for that. She wasn't the Kim I'd fallen in love with. She was like a shell of herself. Something just wasn't there anymore that used to be. Kim told me what had happened. The year leading up to the tattoo was awful for her. The stress of everything seemed to pile up more and more. I'll respect her and keep much of what she told me secret. However, the thing that's important is that she secretly started doing methamphetamines to keep up her performance at work and to deal with everything. And one day, she just out of nowhere decided she hated everything about her life. She explained why at the time she wanted the tattoo. It doesn't really make much sense, but a lot of what she was thinking at the time didn't. And from there, she just lost control of everything. I won't talk about what happened after she disappeared, but it's not pretty. These are things that she did that will follow her for the rest of her life. It explained a lot, but it didn't make things any better. We talked for nearly the entire night. She didn't leave my place until almost 4 a.m. Since then, she said that she wants to try and get back together with me. She admitted she knows things cannot be the same, yet she wants to try. I haven't talked to anyone about what I'm about to say yet. I've held off on talking to Kim about it because it feels selfish. But there's something about the way Kim acts, about the way it affected my life, that irks me. When we talked that night, she said that I was lucky she cut me off. I was lucky I didn't get put through any of this. I was lucky that my crazy ex wasn't at my door screaming or showing up to my work and causing a scene. She acts like my life wasn't affected at all. I told her what happened after she left, how much it hurt, how I almost quit my job and moved across the country. Her response was dismissive. Like, because I didn't go through with that, I don't get to complain. She acted like because I wasn't the one with a tattoo on her face, I don't get to act like it had long-lasting effects on me. She didn't even apologize for the explicit and hateful note she left with my things when she returned them. Or for the phone call where she called me a manipulative, selfish jerk who only wanted her for her body, or even just for breaking up with me. She knows she was wrong to do it, but it's almost as if she's acting like because she had a breakdown, I can't hold her accountable for what she did to me because it wasn't long lasting. I texted her last night saying how hard it was for me when she left. She ignored it entirely and tried to move on. No acknowledgement at all. I don't know why, but it hurt me. It hurt me so much. I feel like I did back when all those emotions finally hit me after she left. I wish she'd just never come back into my life now. I wish I didn't know what happened. I wish I hadn't picked up the call, because it hurts. But a part of me feels like I'm being selfish or complaining too much, that I don't get to feel this way because I'm not the one who had the mental breakdown. And there we go, a pretty similar story to the first one, truth be told. Both stories have a man who's been so deeply saddened, or I guess kind of even traumatized by their ex-wife now, or wife or fiance's past doings or current doings, you know what I mean. But then even when that woman has come back into their life and you feel like both these men might just say, you know what, despite all the trauma, I still love you, I'm gonna get back with you, we can get through this. They both, in my opinion, make the correct decision and say, you know what, no, I can't do this anymore. What you did is truly ridiculous, it hurt me so much, and that's the end. And to both men, I have to commend them because I think they made the right decision, and I know in that position how hard that decision would be to make. So fair play to these guys. It takes a lot of courage and bravery to do that, and yeah, I would just say put yourself in their position if you can for a moment and think about how hard this would actually be. Obviously, for someone like me or you looking at this objectively, you can think, okay, these women are just crazy and stupid. But if you actually love that person, then that is a totally different conundrum. But yeah, as I said, I think they made the right decision. What do you guys think? Get in the comments down below.
All my friends think my girlfriend is creepy. Are they right? Hi Reddit. I, a 22-year-old man, started dating my girlfriend, let's call her Alice, who is 21, about 7 months ago. We met while working on a group project for one of our college classes. From the moment I met her, I felt an instant connection. She was beautiful, smart, and we shared a bunch of common interests. Long story short, we flirted for a few weeks before I finally asked her out, and we've been happily going out since. Now, here comes the problem. About a month ago, my friends and I were planning to hang out, and I invited Alice. While me and Alice are from the same hometown, we met during college, and a majority of our relationship has been during the school year. While we know each other's college friends, we'd never met each other's hometown friends. I know that Alice has really bad social anxiety, so I was hesitant to invite her at first, but when I did ask, she seemed nervous, but really excited. The party seemed to go really well. Alice was smiling and laughing the whole time, and even got to go on a rant about a topic she really liked. When it was over, she even told me while I was taking her home how much she liked my friends. When I asked my friends what they thought of Alice, they all said she seemed nice. All except my best friend, Ruben. When I asked him, he told me that he hated her. I immediately questioned why. hoping it was them not mixing well, as I can acknowledge that Ruben and Alice are complete opposites when it comes to interests and personality. But no, Ruben told me he hated her because of how creepy she is, and I was better off dumping her. Now, this threw me off, because never once have I considered Alice creepy. She's actually the cutest girl I'd ever met, and I'd never felt more comfortable around someone as I do around her. Before I could even ask what he meant, he went off on a rant about how uncomfortable she made him and started citing stories I told him about our dates during college. Stuff like how she'd stare at me without saying anything, and just enjoyed looking at me. How she'd eat the same meals whenever we went to dinner. How unjealous she was when a girl came up and flirted with me, or about her deep knowledge of poisons and love for murder mysteries and true crime. Both of which she could talk about for hours, but neither of which she actually talked about at the party. He said that while he wrote them off before, since they didn't seem to bother me, which they don't, after meeting her in person and seeing how weird and flighty she was, he can tell that she's a secret psycho and will end up either breaking my heart or physically hurting me. I tried to explain to him how any weirdness was probably just because she was nervous about meeting them for the first time. But no, he insisted that we've had friends SOs have anxiety before, and it was just that she was plain weird. I blew him off at first, because he sounded freaking crazy. Alice isn't perfect, but she's far from creepy. But after 2 weeks of him telling me to dump her and me getting tired of telling him to drop it, I reached out to a few of our friends to prove him wrong. But to my surprise, they all agreed that Alice was creepy. Most of them said that the way she spoke really threw them off, which is fair since Alice can be weirdly formal sometimes, but I didn't notice her doing that at the party at all. And typically, it's much more funny than unsettling. Most of my friends told me it wasn't enough to break up with her, since they still genuinely found her sweet and fun to be around, but I did have one other friend say it was worth breaking up over, and he was just too embarrassed to tell me at first. I have no plans of breaking up with Alice, because all the stuff they're calling creepy, I actually find cute when she does. But are they right? Is it creepy that she does that stuff? Should I talk to her about it? Should I just tell my friends to F off and ignore their concerns? I feel bad for even questioning about this, but with all my friends agreeing, it's starting to gnaw at me. And I just need some clarification. Is it actually creepy, or are they just being dramatic? Okay, really interesting post here. I mean, off the bat, to answer your initial question, OP, no, I don't see any point there in which Alice is being creepy at all. Your friends are obviously being dramatic. I just can't work out why. What has she done that's creepy here at all, apart from showing interest in some niche things? Oh wait, everyone does that. If you didn't do that, you would be weird because of how normal you are. I mean, Ruben is listing things like interest in murder mysteries and true crime as weird. Some of the most popular things currently in kind of online culture. If anyone's weird, it's definitely Ruben here for taking this big of an interest in Alice, and I don't really know what his agenda is. Ultimately, even if Alice was like completely creepy, weird, abnormal, just like a disgusting human, if you're happy with her, that is all that matters. But the fact of the matter is that she's not. She seems pretty normal to me, so I don't quite know why this has happened in the first place. But of course, let's without further ado get into the update. That is the entire point of this subreddit. This was all resolved a little bit later on. Okay then, let's move on to the update posted 9 days later. Wow, thank you all so much for your helpful comments and validation. I'm glad you guys all agree that the stuff Alice is doing wasn't really creepy. Anyway, let's get into the meat of this update. Since I posted originally, I've spoken with each of my friends individually and talked to them about what they said. Pretty much all of them apologized, and some even offered to apologize to Alice herself, which at the time I said no to, since I didn't really want them interacting with her, but we'll get back into that later. The only one who didn't apologize, as I'm sure you guessed, was Ruben. I want to address some comments suggesting that Ruben could either be attracted to me or maybe even Alice. I don't think either of those are true, as Alice is the first girlfriend Ruben has ever acted like this with, even though I've dated plenty of girls, and Alice isn't his usual type. He may still be attracted to her, I mean she is freaking gorgeous, but I've known the guy since 3rd grade, so I know he's pretty picky about the girls he's with. I don't think it's that, I think he's just a major POS. I've known Ruben literally my whole life, since our mums were college friends and moved close to each other when we were young. With so much history, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt by just asking him to drop it, since I really didn't care if he found her creepy. I really liked her, he'd just have to deal with that if he wanted to continue being friends. But he didn't apologise or even say he was wrong, although he did agree to stop commenting on it. Of course, that isn't perfect, but it works for now, as I consider if I really want to continue to be friends with him. Yesterday, I met up with Alice for a casual date. It wasn't anything fancy, just a home picnic. I have really bad allergies, so we couldn't do it outside. We had some candles and our favourite foods, and we watched movies and dissected our favourite tropes. About halfway through our third movie, Alice brought up Ruben, since she heard about an upcoming car show / auction her dad told her about, and she remembered me saying that he loved vintage cars and suggested the three of us and a friend of hers who was also into cars could go together so that she could get to know him better. It felt crazy that she suggested this days after mine and Ruben's fight, and it made me feel sick with how sweet she was being to such a jerk. I gave some weak excuses about how she hates car shows and doesn't have to do that, or how Ruben wouldn't be comfortable doing that, but my girlfriend, being the angel she was, said she could tough through it, or even just let me and Ruben go together if he wasn't comfortable with her yet, and she'd even pay for the tickets because it was a private showing. Oh my goodness, Alice is unbelievable, by the way. This was the point I broke and told her everything that happened. She took it really well, just calmly listening while I rambled through my explanation, and even ended up apologizing to me about weirding out my friends. I tried to explain that it wasn't her fault and she didn't need to apologize. As a lot of you suspected, she ended up telling me how she believed she was autistic, but since she hadn't gotten an official diagnosis, she wasn't comfortable telling people. After a lot of guilty back and forth between the two of us, she told me she didn't want me cutting off my friends since they did apologize and didn't say anything cruel, just pointed out her neurodivergent tendencies, which aren't an insult to her. But I put my foot down. I for sure will not be bringing her around Ruben anymore, and I plan to distance myself from him and my other friends for the time being. She agreed this was fair. She also wants to meet up with my friends who want to apologize to her since they seem genuine in their regrets. Overall, things turned out pretty well, and thank you all so much for your inputs. Okay, there we go. Great conclusion. I was a little bit concerned there when all your friends started saying, no, actually, I didn't want to hurt your feelings, but yeah, we actually all think she's creepy. I was really hoping that wouldn't turn your head, but to be honest, I've got to put myself in that position. If all my friends who I had a lot of trust in were saying that the girl I was seeing was creepy, it would 100% make me think twice, and I guess that's the reason why OP has posted this in the first place. But really, I think that Ruben, he's got some form of agenda, as I said earlier. I think he is the one that is perhaps telling your group of friends, don't you think she's so creepy, Alice? Oh, we need to tell OP that he's got to dump her. Again, I've got no idea why, but I'm glad that you've come to that conclusion that Ruben is a POS, because to me, as an outsider looking in, that is the only reasonable conclusion I can come to as well. Like, if anything, as I said halfway through that story, Alice sounds unreal. She sounds great. I mean, what a kind person to just take all that you're saying and be like, you know what? Okay, how do we sort this? How do we fix this? Like, obviously it's not on her. If anything, she's been really horribly treated. But no, she is so sweet and kind that she's saying, okay, I'm really sorry this has happened. What can we do? Can I pay for Ruben's ticket to chat to me and chat to you and try and rekindle this friendship? It's crazy. What a generous person. Yeah, sack off Ruben. And I hope you and Alice get married, live till 107, and have 75 children. Enjoy that life. A lot of kids, but enjoy that life nonetheless. Am I the jerk for refusing to bleach my hair for a wedding? So, I have a weird problem, and after I told my boyfriend, he told me this sub would be the perfect place to get some help. So I, a 25-year-old woman, am meant to be in the bridal party of my friend Zoe's wedding in December 2024. A couple of days ago, she met with me and the rest of the bridal party to discuss what the plan was for hair, makeup, dresses, etc. At first, it seemed reasonable. She's going for a winter wonderland type of theme, so blue dresses, all in different shades, lined up as a gradient, with silvery accents, snowflake jewelry, and soft makeup. Even blue contacts for those of us without blue eyes. Yeah, the last one's a bit weird, but it's no big deal to me. I've worn colour contacts for Halloween. The bit that ended up being an issue for me is that Zoe requested we all get our hair dyed. A couple of members of the bridal group are natural blondes, with dyed ends, and so is Zoe, but she wants to go platinum for the wedding. But the rest of us are two brunettes, a strawberry blonde, she wasn't blonde enough, and a redhead. I'm one of the brunettes, and I'm the only one in the group who has never dyed or bleached their hair. I've considered it, but I can never stay settled on what I want to do, and I'd hate to spend money on something that I end up hating. On top of that, my mum, from ages 5 to 13, flat ironed my hair almost every single day. It really damaged my hair. I'm almost certain it's resulted in my hair being thinner than it used to be. I know that bleaching can also damage your hair, and I don't feel comfortable taking that risk yet. I told Zoe I wouldn't be able to dye my hair. She insisted it would be fine, as my hair seemed quite healthy, and she would be paying for the bleaching treatments for all of us. I again said no. Thanks so much, but I can't. I asked if I could just wear a wig, and she said no, that wigs are cheap and unnatural, and she wants us to have our real hair bleached instead of some cheap imitation for the day. After more back and forth, she told me I should go home and think about the fact that I'm ruining her vision, and that I'd be ruining the photos and wedding video that she and her fiancé will be putting together for his grandparents to view, since they won't be able to fly in from Argentina. I apologized, paid for my meal, and left. I really don't want to dye my hair, but I also don't want to ruin Zoe's picture-perfect day. I don't think I'm being difficult or wrong here, but am I? Okay, off the bat, I've got to say this sounds absolutely ridiculous. Dyeing your hair, bleaching your hair for someone's wedding, demanding that your bridesmaids do that. Very, very odd. I mean, by all means, have a theme, sure. Have whatever colour dresses you want. But demanding that your bridesmaids dye or bleach their hair, that's a bit much, isn't it? Also, OP, you are completely right. I know firsthand. I bleached my hair a few years ago for a forfeit. I'll put a picture on screen for those of you that didn't know this. Yeah, it looks pretty crazy. But it did damage my hair. Like, my hair felt bad. It felt like hay during the process, like during having that hair. And even afterwards, when my hair naturally grew out again, this colour, it didn't feel great. It still felt like straw-like, hay-like. There definitely is lasting damage done. So I do not blame you at all, OP. But, of course, this is our /best of. Let's get into the first update. Alright, so this comes 9 days after the original post. I met with Zoe yesterday afternoon and we talked things over. I pointed out a lot of things that were brought up in the comments and presented them as the concerns of me and a couple of friends of mine, and not the concerns of the millions that saw it online. Well, it turns out that she was part of those millions. Someone sent her one of the TikToks that my Reddit post was read in, and she's been thinking about things. She told me she felt a little embarrassed about this all being out there online, even if nobody knew who we are, and I apologized. I explained that I really didn't have many people who weren't involved in the wedding to speak with about this, and I needed the advice. She also apologized and said that she realizes now that the bleaching was a completely out of line request. She said that since she's only bleached her hair once, and because she's naturally blonde to begin with, she didn't know anything about the process for bleaching dark hair and didn't know it would be so difficult, take so long, and could cause so much damage. She said looking back, knowing what she knows now, she feels like she was a huge female dog. I reassured her that she wasn't, she was just uneducated and passionate about something, and we clashed. We hugged it out, and things are good now. About the wigs, there will be none. She's scrapping the group blonde idea. I convinced her that she would stand out far better if her whole bridal party wasn't blonde, and that dark hair and red hair would work amazingly with her winter theme. The contacts are also being scrapped unless any of us decide we want to use them. They're a very piercing blue and kind of cool looking. About the grandparents, Zoe said Frank's family in Argentina isn't of German descent, so nothing to wonder or argue about. She was, however, horrified when she put all those pieces together and thought about how it looked. She'd really been thinking Elsa vibes, not Aryan Nation vibes, and that embarrassed her more than the story being out there by itself. She didn't even know Nazis fled to South America after World War II. Zoe has officially messaged everyone in the bridal party to let them know about the change of plans and to apologize for the outburst and the stress this put on everyone. She's also very excited for us to all come up with a new hair and makeup look and to go dress shopping. Also, those who asked if the groomsmen were being held to the same standard, I don't know. And after finally getting this whole fiasco over with, I didn't care to ask. Zoe and I have made up and everything is fine now. Sorry if this update wasn't the crazy story everyone was looking forward to. Okay, seems like a pretty standard ending, right? Well, you'd be wrong. Because although that is the end of the updates, there was one more edit that was posted at the start of this month, October, and it might just blow your mind. Let's get into that. So here is that edit. I considered whether or not I should post this because I feel genuinely freaking awful, but I think I need to just get it out there. Zoe's wedding has been called off. The engagement has been broken, and there's no telling if Zoe and Frank will even have a relationship at the end of this. To keep things short, this is all secondhand from Zoe via text. Zoe went to Frank the next day to talk to him about everything. He'd been gone until the morning after she and I met up due to a work thing. Turns out 3 of his groomsmen, including the best man, have already started the bleaching process. It went well for 2 of them, as they were both pretty light-haired, though not quite blonde. His best man, Brandon, however, has orange hair now. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. In addition, it's patchy because he did it at home with a buddy while they were both drinking, and now he has to go into a salon to get it fixed, plus his hair already feels fried. Frank told Zoe that since half his side has taken the plunge, and because it effed up Brandon's hair, for the moment, that the rest of the bridal party, and he apparently singled me out by name, need to suck it the frick up and get it done. This resulted in a huge argument. Zoe called off the wedding and Frank ended the engagement. Zoe is sleeping at her parents' place and they've not spoken since. I feel awful. I know I have a right to boundaries and autonomy and stuff. I know this isn't my fault, but I feel like if I'd never made such a big deal out of things and just gone through with it, this never would have happened. Well, just when I thought we were going to have a couple of chilled updates there, no. It's actually an edit this time, which destroys everything. OP, I do have to say though, don't for 1 second think that any of this is your fault. If these people, this couple, Zoe and Frank, were going to break up because of dyeing their hair or bleaching their hair, then I'm pretty sure they would have broken up eventually anyway. I mean, come on, if they're that fragile in their relationship, then it wasn't going to last. I wouldn't blame you. If anything, you've probably done them both a favor, because if you're breaking up over someone dyeing their hair and not liking it, then yeah, it's not looking good for your future. Let's be completely honest. But there we go. What a start to this one. Let's get into our second best of post. My boyfriend of 8 years told me he wanted to open our relationship. I am a 28-year-old woman, and I met my boyfriend, who is 29, many years ago through some friends. He was living in another place on the other side of the country. We instantly took a liking to each other and became boyfriend and girlfriend. In the first year of our relationship, it was distance. Both agreed that after I finished my schooling, I would go and live with him. I had to leave behind everything. Friends and family, a perfect job offering with an amazing salary with this company that I'd interned in previous years, which I loved by the way, but I thought that he was worth it. So I moved to where he lives and everything was good. We talked about our future, both agreed we'd get married at 30. We focused on our jobs and ourselves. We fought, but could never be mad at each other for longer than a few hours. We bought a house together with a nice yard, the perfect home for our future together. Last night, while we were eating dinner, my boyfriend told me he wanted to talk about something. I said, all right, and we proceeded into the conversation. He started off by saying that he loved me and that I'm perfect to him. I thought he was going to propose to me. Instead, he told me that he is polyamorous, that he just realized that, and that he wanted to open our relationship. I asked if I did anything wrong for him wanting to open the relationship, wondering if I didn't satisfy him enough emotionally and sexually. He said no, and that it's just who he is. I told him that I only believed in monogamy. I can't personally see myself with anyone but him. He told me that I was being ignorant when I told him I only wanted him. I backtracked into what I was saying and asked him if he'd already thought of another woman that he wants instead of me. He tried to deny it, but he said there was a woman that he'd met, that she's also poly, that they never did anything and that I shouldn't worry about it. But I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to say, so I finished dinner in silence. That night, I chose to sleep in the guest room. I couldn't bear to look at him. I started thinking of all the things and opportunities I'd missed, like my dream job, my friends, missing life achievements of my nieces and nephews, and not spending enough time with my mother before she passed away. All of the 8 years I had just went away. They left a sour taste in my mouth. I regret the life I had in the past 8 years. I keep thinking of who would have been, what I would be doing. This morning, he didn't go to work because he felt like trash because I slept separately. So we talked about everything, and I told him that I cannot be with someone like him, that I didn't want to enter an open relationship. I told him I wanted to leave. He started crying and said he couldn't change who he is. Why would I say that I regret our time together? I told him because he'd wasted it, and our future together has just disappeared. I told him it would take me time to learn to not love him anymore. I thanked him for the past 8 years together. He said he takes it all back and that he'll stop talking to the other girl, that he doesn't want our relationship to end, but I can't do that to someone I love. I cannot hold someone back from becoming who they are. If he is poly, I don't care, but it's just not who I am. I've packed all the things that I own. I'm gonna move back home, live with a friend. I applied for a job that I actually like. I'm sort of embarrassed to admit to family and friends why our relationship ended because it feels like I wasn't good enough for him. I feel like I wasted my 20s for him. Okay, that is the original post. Now, before we get into the update, first of all, here are some relevant comments that are very pertinent to the story. Someone asked, I wonder if he is also okay with you seeing other people. And OP replied, when I asked him how he would feel if I saw others and bringing other men into our home, he said he wouldn't mind and that we wouldn't bring a new person into our bedroom, but into a guest room, which felt super icky. Another comment, which to be fair is quite a obvious one, but maybe they didn't actually ever have this conversation. Someone said, did you never have the monogamous first poly talk? OP replied, the only talk we had was about us, marriage and children only. I never had the desire to pursue anyone in 8 years, it was only him. I know what poly is, I understand it, but it's not for me. Yeah, you know what, I kind of agree with that. I think it's a pretty niche thing to be polyamorous. The majority of people aren't polyamorous. So surely if you're talking about children, marriage, the future with just you two, yeah, it makes sense that you wouldn't outright ask that question. It's kind of implied, monogamy in general, right? So then let's get on to the update. This was posted a month later, the beginning of this month again, October the 1st. I thought I'd give an update of what happened. It's been well over a month since my ex-boyfriend wanted to open our relationship. I've moved away and now I have my own place. My new job is much better than my last one. Everything's been good for me, spending a lot of time with family. When we told our mutual friends and our families why we ended our relationship, they thought it was a trashy situation and they just joined my side. About the house that I've recently purchased with my ex, we decided to put it up for sale and split everything evenly. I haven't talked to him since we broke up, but I've heard that he started dating the girl he told me about, which I knew was coming, so I wasn't really surprised. I'm not really in the mood for dating at the moment. I'll probably take more time for myself. In the end, I'm happy. I've learned a lot and everything has been good. You know, sometimes I wonder with these stories, right? How can you be with someone for 8 years and then suddenly out of nowhere, they just do this, they just spring this surprise on you? Surely after 8 years of being with someone, you must be able to feel as if you really know them. Yet, how can you if they end up doing something like this? It's insane to me. I also do think, or kind of worry/wonder, whether this guy is even polyamorous at all, or he just used it as an excuse because he was emotionally cheating on you with this woman, kind of proven by the fact, well, at least the fact that he was emotionally cheating on you, that very soon after you guys break up, after you leave, he's dating the woman. I mean, normally after an 8-year relationship, you'd have a little bit of time off, right? They say that it takes half the length of a relationship to get over that relationship, but no, he's straight back on the horse. I think that shows his true intentions. Also, I need to just kind of remind myself here. He called her ignorant because she identified as monogamous and wasn't happy that he was poly. What? That's the sort of bloke that we're dealing with here. Really? So in that case, yeah, I kind of understand why OP is saying at the end that she is happy, because you're never really going to be happy with that bloke long term if you stay with him for sure. And at least now you know and you can move on with your life. Yeah, it's tough. I wouldn't see it as wasting your 20s, all those 8 years, but it's crazy. Out of nowhere, yeah, I get it. It does feel like those 8 years, or at least that 8-year relationship, was for nothing. I want to call off my wedding because my husband is embarrassed about my culture. Hi, I really need some advice. I'm 26 years old and I'm getting married to my husband who is 28. I'm from a small village and I moved to the US 5 years ago. That's important because in such a short amount of time, I'm not assimilated to the US culture and I'm still very involved in mine. When I met my husband, a few weeks into us dating, he told me he was going to marry me, as a joke. But I told him how marriage works in my culture and he praised how beautiful it was. Fast forward to now. We agreed on doing 2 weddings, one in my culture and the other an American wedding. In my village, when you get married, both spouses get a gold bangle sort of thing, equivalent to a wedding ring. There's a ceremony and party for that as well. It's molded onto your wrist and it can't come off unless you use like a saw or something like that. During my traditional wedding, I received a gift of these fruits that I ate back home that are truly my favorite, but I haven't been able to find them in the US. My husband joked that he was not looking forward to smelling them every day, which is fine because I hate the smell of sausages, but it's something he loves. I stayed back home for a week because I'd missed it, and my husband came home early to prepare for the American wedding. I came home on the Monday, but didn't see my husband since he had work, and by the time he finished, I was sleeping. We had dinner last night, and I saw that he didn't have his bangle on. He told me he thought it was just for the party. I explained to him again how important it is to me. and he said that I couldn't seriously expect him to wear it all the time. I asked him why not, and he told me it made him look unprofessional. I got upset with him and left. He ended up calling me to explain how it holds no cultural significance to him, so I rebutted, asking him if he was fine with me not wearing a wedding ring as it holds no cultural significance to me. He got a bit upset and gave me a lecture on how if we were in my country, he'd wear it. I feel so turned off and uninterested in this relationship that I am now thinking of calling off the wedding. Now, just a quick edit as well before we get into some relevant comments. OP has said that he did know he'd have to wear it permanently. We talked about this in the early stages of us dating, and several times leading up to now when I've had family members get married and when he proposed. Also, he works from home with occasional in-person meetings. Oh wow, so even if you were saying it's unprofessional because you don't want to wear it in front of clients or something, which is completely ridiculous anyway, you're at home most of the time. You could just not put it on Zoom. Unbelievable. Right, so here are some comments from people on the original post. Someone said, "How did your husband remove his bangle?" OP replied, "He went to a shop and they cut it off." Someone else asked, "Is there any compromise here? Like a smaller or thinner golden bracelet that can be more easily hidden under a shirt sleeve instead of a bangle? Or him wearing an American wedding ring only while you only wear the bangle? I feel like in most cross-cultural relationships, you have to bend and find ways to compromise." OP said, "I don't mind compromising, but when we had the discussion of what the marriage process would be like, he was fully on board. They take mine, the bangle I already have that was given to me by my parents. The gold then gets reused to make for the one that my husband gives me. Had I known he wasn't okay with it, I would have just preferred to keep the one I already had. But he reassured me he was okay with it and was excited throughout the whole process." And then one final comment. "We don't have context on your whole relationship, so I'm not going to jump in and give a strong opinion one way or another, but I'm less concerned about the bangle itself and more concerned that he pretended to be into the idea and then changed his tune once it was too late." Yes, that is the entire point. I completely agree. You don't seem to believe this was a misunderstanding. If it had been, then it might be worth finding a compromise. But pretending to be on board with a thing, then pretending not to have understood that it was important to you and downplaying it while insisting he gets his way, that reeks of some really unhealthy conflict resolution dynamics. Look back over your relationship and see if you can spot a pattern of this behavior. The gaslighting, the "I didn't think it was a big deal," and especially any "well, really, my hurtful behavior is your fault or problem." Those are serious red flags, and if there are more instances of them, then I think it's worth following your instincts. OP replies, "I wish I could pin this comment because this is literally it. Throughout all of the years we've been together, he knew about this, and he was always so happy about it and complimented many things about my culture. He was excited before the ceremony and even after. When they left, he kept sending me pictures of it. Like I was fully convinced he was happy. Had he even talked to me about removing it, I would feel a bit different. But he went and did it himself and didn't even think to mention it when he saw me, and I had to notice it for myself. Above all, he told me how I couldn't have seriously thought he'd wear it." Like, what? And there we go. That is it for the original post. But then, just 11 days later, we got this update. So, I ended up texting him that morning that I was ready to talk, and he came to my hotel a few minutes later. I explained to him how I felt about him cutting off his bangle without talking to me, and especially after he told me he would wear it. Now, just to explain this a little bit further, in my culture, parents cut off pieces of theirs to mold together for their children. This bangle then gets reshaped for my husband, so it's generations and generations that got passed down to mine that is now destroyed. I explained that if I knew he didn't plan on wearing it, we could have just bought him a new gold one instead of using mine so I could keep mine intact and be able to give it to my children, or we could have made one that can come off and such. And if he told me that there was no way he'd ever wear it on any occasion, then we could have gone our separate ways. He apologized and explained that he didn't think he'd have to wear it every day. I reminded him that he'd known this for years, and I also reminded him the countless times that I've reassured him it was fine if he didn't want to, yet he told me he would. I'd like to note here that he got to design his, and we made it really thin and small where he could wear his watches and it wouldn't show. I asked him to show me the bangle, so we ended up going to his house. I don't know if the person he went to was bad at his job or what, but they literally melted it. It was cut in several different pieces, so my original design is completely ruined. It probably doesn't make sense to you guys, but that is really upsetting to me. No, it makes complete sense. That is just awful to hear. I did entertain the idea of maybe he was teased or something, but he assured me it wasn't that, and he just didn't think it was that serious. I explained that he was basically divorcing me, and he said that I don't have to wear mine either. He got angry with me and kept insisting that I was making a big deal out of nothing. I explained how, bangle aside, he lied to me about something for 4 years and then undermined me right after we got married. He failed to communicate to me something so important and doesn't see how hurtful that is to me. That, in my opinion, guys, is the whole point. He ended up going on a tangent about how unprofessional it looks when I reminded him that he's been in the same job this whole time and it's something he never brought up. Also, not to mention he works from home and only has biannual in-person meetings where obviously it's formal, so it wouldn't be seen in the first place. There was a lot of back and forth. Wow, biannual in-person meetings. I thought it would be like once a week or something, not twice a year. He got angry with me and kept insisting I was making a big deal out of nothing. I ended up taking an Uber home, and the same day, I went and got mine removed. I returned it to him, since he bought it along with his ring, and I took my bangle with me. I called my parents to see if they can make me another one. It's not the same because I've had mine my whole life. My dad called my husband and wanted an explanation for what he'd done. I guess the conversation didn't go well because my father immediately started mourning my marriage with my mother and agreed to send me a new one. I told him that we'd have to pause on the American wedding, which after trying to change my mind, he did give into, because I wanted to talk more about what other things he doesn't think are serious. I left to come back to my house. I live in a different state, only 4 to 5 hours away driving. He was supposed to take me, but he wouldn't respond to my texts all of the night before, and since I needed to be home for work, I called his friend, who couldn't get in contact with him either, so he ended up buying me a ticket home and drove me to the airport the next day. He drove over to my house 2 nights ago, and he kept apologizing for everything. He told me that he would rewear it and will get it fixed, but honestly, all of the designs are ruined, and if he wore it now, it wouldn't really change the fact that I know how he truly feels about it, so I can't even enjoy it anymore. I had a list of things that we talked about in the past and agreed to, and I just wanted to revisit them. I asked for full honesty, and we did end up taking some things off that he agreed to in the past and admitted to not fully agreeing to, which just didn't make me feel better like I hoped it would, because now I'm rethinking our whole relationship as if everything else might have been a lie. He's insisted that he's not going back home until we fix this, but I'm not optimistic. I feel like I've said everything I needed to say, and now I've got nothing else to say. He's staying at a hotel nearby and has been coming down every day trying to talk, but he's not really saying anything new, and he just keeps repeating the same thing. My dad posted pictures of me with my old bangle, implying that I was single. He's been sending me numbers of men that he wants me to talk to. I have removed pictures of my traditional wedding from all of my social media. I don't expect people to understand, since many of you have been stuck on just the bracelet alone, but I did receive some good feedback, and writing this makes me feel a bit better, since there isn't really anyone I can talk about this to. Also, in the same way that if he had a problem and waited this long and then tried to secretly remove it without talking to me, imagine he had a big problem with me in the future and then lied to me that everything is fine, only to randomly get divorced, even though I didn't know there was an issue to begin with up until then. Okay, that is the end of the post. Let's finish things off with a couple of comments. Someone asked, so do you guys not live together? OP says no. I wanted to wait until we were fully married to do any marriage things, you know? We live in states a few hours away from each other and we visit each other a lot. We did plan on moving in together after the American wedding as we already got a house. And then one final comment. You mentioned that he lived 4 to 5 hours from you, but also worked from home and only had to go to in-person work meetings biannually. Was it an option for him to move to your state? OP replies, I used to live in his state. I moved to my current state for work. I planned on moving to his state after we're married. Our house was being built there, so it made sense for him to stay and handle that. And plus, I don't want to live together until marriage, so it didn't make sense for him to move here and have to find himself another place. So, there we go. That is the end of that one. Wow. I mean, yeah, the whole point, I think, as I was saying and agreeing with OP and some of the comments going along, is that if your husband can lie about something like this and say, oh, what? I didn't know this. I didn't think I'd have to wear the bangle. Come on, you can't really have expected me to wear this bangle for the rest of my life, even though we've talked about it for the previous 4 years and I've openly admitted or maybe really lied about really appreciating your culture and saying, yeah, I can't wait to do this. Oh, I can't wait to have a wedding, you know, for me, and then a wedding for you in my culture and then your culture. What else may happen in the future? What else could he lie about? That is, I think, the main takeaway here. How can you trust somebody, the man that you're going to marry, the man that you have married, by the way, well, you've had half of the marriages, who is just blatantly lied to your face for the previous 4 years and then has actually said, you know what, no, I don't want to do this. Again, I completely agree with your final point here. It's not just about the bracelet. It's about other things that could come up in the future. How do you know if he even likes you at this point? Like, you're going to have so many questions going through your head. I don't know how you ever trust him again, and I don't know how you move forward. Do you agree with me, guys? Get in the comments down below. But that is my overarching conclusion. I mean, the main thing that sticks out is saying, he told me it looks unprofessional, but then he goes into work twice a year. I mean, that's just clear BS. That argument, that whole kind of sentence makes zero sense. If he's coming up with absolute trash and just rubbish like that to try and kind of make an excuse as to why he doesn't want to wear it, then once again, what other stupid excuses is he going to make up for other things that he doesn't want to do? Like, oh, I cheated on you, but my excuse was, I was actually really hungry at the time and a woman offered to make me some food and then I ended up accidentally having sex with her. You know, that's the level here. Really, that is a level. Because if you think that a bangle looks unprofessional on a Zoom call where you never put your hands in a screen, I mean, imagine I did this in a video. Oh, tell you what, that watch is a bit unprofessional. Can't be wearing that anymore. Then you're just an idiot. I'm sorry, you just are. I, a 26-year-old man, found her, a 28-year-old woman's TikTok after we went on a date. This is honestly not something I expected to post about. But here's the thing. I've known this woman for a while since we're in the same friend groups. She's a nice person, attractive, and honestly, I've always enjoyed my talks with her. A few weeks ago, I asked her out on a date. I figured if she says no, it's fine, but she actually agreed. We went on a date this past Saturday, and honestly, I thought it was awesome. We went out to dinner, had drinks, spent the rest of the night talking, and we even took a walk on a walking bridge over the town's lake. It's not a big one. I dropped her off and was elated. I absolutely loved the night. However, that night when I was scrolling through TikTok on my bed, a post from her, I didn't follow nor knew she had a TikTok at that point, appeared on my For You page. Essentially, she said in the video, "Getting ready for a date I really don't want to go on." That was like a bucket of ice water being thrown on my head. I was so freaking happy, and I just found out she didn't even want to go on a date with me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she has to want it, but please let me know if that's the case. We don't need to go out. We can forget I even asked her out. But doing this on the internet, it made me self-conscious. I'm not sure if that's the right word. Now I'm unsure about what to do. Should I tell her I saw this or just forget about it? Honestly, it really hurt me and I'm not really sure I want to give this another try. I mean, she didn't want to go out with me in the first place, right? Wow, that is a really tough situation. But without further ado, let's get into the update. This was posted just a week later. Hello everyone. Some people have reached out to me through comments or chats asking for an update on the situation. Sadly, there isn't much to share at the moment, but I'll provide what I can. Please keep in mind that I won't be discussing this further, nor will I reply to comments. Thank you for your understanding. After last week's post, I read almost every comment, or at least most of them. I'm thankful to all those who commented and shared a bit of their own personal story. Some people mentioned that anxiety is normal and feeling like not going out is definitely common, suggesting that I shouldn't look too much into it. While I agree with their perspective and see no fault in not feeling like going out, what bothered me the most in this situation was having to post a TikTok for a significant audience. I am a private person by nature, and even my social media accounts, like Instagram, only have one single post. I don't really like to overtly share, nor do I want to be with somebody who does. It's completely fine to share whatever you want, I just don't want to be a part of it. So, I decided not to contact her. I chose to pretend I'd never seen the post and let things be. I understand a lot of people might think this isn't the best choice, but I feel it's the best course for both of us. Last Thursday, a few friends who also happen to know her invited me for drinks. We went to a bar, and while we were eating and enjoying our drinks, a mutual friend asked me how my date went. as our circle was aware that we were going on a date. I didn't want to say much, so I just replied, "Oh, it was good, but I don't think we clicked." This friend followed it by saying, "We figured," which made me feel rather uneasy. When I asked what he was talking about, he hesitated, but eventually said that they had seen a TikTok post from her about not wanting to go out. At this point, I didn't really know what to say. This situation is just incredibly messy for me, but there's not much I can do about it. Still, I wasn't going to mention it, nor did I try to look up if there was any update on her part. In fact, I deleted TikTok after that incident. It just wasn't doing me any good. Nevertheless, this past Saturday, she sent me a text. She mentioned that she enjoyed our date and asked if I wanted to go out again. I understand that she clearly stated that she enjoyed our time together. However, I don't want to be with someone who exposes so much of their personal life. It's not something that would be good for me. So I decided to tell her the truth, and I sent a text explaining that while I absolutely enjoyed our date, her company, and that I thought she was an amazing woman, her post from the night of our date came across my For You page on TikTok, and it made me feel really self-conscious. While I understand that she enjoyed the date, contrary to what she felt at the time of the post, I didn't feel comfortable going out with someone who had such a high level of exposure online. I wished her the best and expressed hope that she finds someone whose lifestyle aligns with hers. She has read the message and left me on read ever since. I don't think she'll reply, and I don't think we'll have a lot of social interactions going forward. I'm sorry if this wasn't the update you guys were expecting, but yeah, sadly, that's what the situation became. Anyhow, I wish everyone a good day. Okay, wow, what a post to start things off. First of all, I've got to say that usually I try and keep my comments relatively short and concise on these episodes, but I have so much personal stuff to say about this that I don't think this is going to be short. First of all, I literally know someone who's been in this exact position before. It's actually one of my good friend's brothers, and yeah, he was in this exact spot, dating someone who posted about their dates and, well, her dates with him on TikTok. It's a very, very weird spot. I mean, this person has quite a few thousand followers. We're talking tens of thousands here. This is a relatively big account. And yeah, he knew that after going on a date with her or texting her or, you know, just his feelings towards her or her feelings towards him, it was going to be public through her TikTok account. And that was obviously pretty weird. It was also weird for us, right? Watching these videos from her. She's American and he lives in America. But yet we were given an insight into their dating life. It was just a bit strange given that we knew the person that she was talking about. Now, if you don't know who that person is, maybe it's interesting. I can hold my hands up here. However, linking this back to the story I've just read, from OP's perspective, I don't think it's a very comfortable position to be in when you're going on a pretty intimate date, you know, a personal thing, yet the person you're doing that with is spreading everything or telling everyone online about it. Now look, I know that there is a big audience for that. I completely understand it, and it's very popular, that sort of content, but I agree with OP. It's not the best thing, I think, to have somebody just spreading that information online. I don't know. I kind of agree. For me personally, I don't give out too much information about myself online, if I'm being pretty honest. I actually don't give out that much at all. Yeah, you know, I have an Instagram account, I have a Twitter, but those aren't that public, really. I mean, they are public, but they're not super public. I'm not like posting stories every day about what I'm doing. I'm not kind of necessarily telling you lot all the time how I'm feeling or like my dating life or that sort of stuff. It's just not what I kind of want to do, because I feel like it's important to keep that sort of stuff separate. I don't know. People do that sort of stuff and people love it. It's just probably not for me. Now, going back to OP here, I think that the way he's handled this is really, really mature, and it's actually a great reason for not continuing to see this person. And I'd like to think that if I felt the same way, which I might, I feel like I'm more inclined not to, because I get this sort of industry, but you never know. I wouldn't want someone saying, oh, this date was good, oh, my boyfriend's really annoying me, doing a video about all that stuff, to be honest. So I might, but yeah, by saying, look, we had a great date, I appreciate the fact that, you know, maybe you had reservations before or not, or I like the fact that you said you wanted to go on another date, all good. I don't want to be in a relationship with somebody or see somebody that is posting so much stuff publicly about just me and you. I think that's a very, very valid point. But if you think about it, right, his friends saying to him, yeah, we figured. They've seen the video. I mean, that kind of epitomizes the whole notion of what OP is saying, right? You don't want other people, you don't want your friends knowing about that sort of stuff. You don't want other people knowing, you don't want strangers knowing. It's just weird, isn't it? It's just so strange. And yeah, I think you made the right decision. Now for our next best of post. Would I be the jerk for not telling my husband I'm pregnant until after he's back from his trip? My husband is a stay-at-home dad to our 4-year-old daughter. He is an extremely devoted and loving dad who has barely spent any time away from her, and she is a major daddy's girl. In 2 weeks, he's going to his best friend from college for a whole week. He's going to be reuniting with his college friends that he hasn't seen or spent time with altogether since our own wedding. He originally wanted the 3 of us to go, but I convinced him to just go himself because I think being alone would make him enjoy it more so he doesn't have to do childcare. I think our daughter is too young for that big of a trip for people she's only met once. Also, I'm planning on taking a week off work and would love to spend one-on-one time with her that we so rarely get. This morning, I learned that I am pregnant. We've been trying for some time now and really want lots of kids, so I'm over the moon, and I know that my husband and daughter will be too. I've not told my husband yet. My first pregnancy, he was a huge prepper, and when I first learned I was pregnant, he went into overdrive with preparing, researching, and taking care of me. He was incredibly helpful and loving, and it was so sweet, but he also really worked himself up and got stressed. I don't think it'll be as bad with this one, but I could still see it being a lot. I honestly don't really want to tell him until after his trip, in 3 weeks, even though it's a huge secret for me to keep. I think he'll potentially be upset, which with him is very, very tame, when he finds out that I'd known for 3 weeks, but he would get over it fast. My concern with telling him is I could honestly see it ruining his trip. I can just imagine the constant texts asking me questions for the millionth times or sharing his most recent thoughts. I really, really want him to have a chill and fun trip and be able to decompress. And for myself, I want to be able to just focus on having a great time with my girl. But I also don't want to just hide something so hugely important to our family from him, since he obviously deserves to know. I can't really decide. Would I be the jerk if I decided to wait to tell him until after his trip? Okay, so before we get into the update here, first of all, a couple of relevant comments from the original comments section. Someone has said, no, you're not the jerk, but definitely don't tell anyone else before him. I completely agree with that. The logic here does make sense from OP. I think that's completely fine. But yeah, you cannot tell anyone else because that is when it would get unfair. OP replies, oh yeah, I'm definitely not telling anyone else. That's why I'm asking Reddit for advice on this and not friends or family. Yeah, that does make sense. Although I may tell my daughter right before he gets home because I'm loving all of the surprise suggestions that I'm seeing, especially with her wearing a big sister shirt. That is a good shout. Someone else has replied to that saying, I love the big sister shirt. If she's not reading yet, you can have her help you make it, then tell her when she's putting it on to show him that it has a secret message for daddy to read out loud to her. They can both get a surprise at the same time. That is genius. Oh my word. She can blurt out when she sees him that her shirt has a secret message for him, and she won't know ahead of time what it is. Oh, that is so clever. And OP has replied that she absolutely loves this. This is absolutely what she's going to do. Thank you so much. What a great idea that is. Okay, so now for the update, which came 6 days later. So I hadn't planned to give an update so soon, but even though I planned on waiting until after my husband's trip, after a few days, it became clear to me that I could not wait that long. He definitely knew something was up with me. I've been getting crazy excited and been chomping at the bit to tell him, and honestly, it just didn't feel good to keep something that big from him for so long. We've been trying for this baby for close to a year now, and it's such happy news, and I decided it's just not worth it. But I still wanted to give him the surprise I had planned. I asked him to go out to the store to grab something really quick, and before he got home, I had my daughter put a shirt I'd got on her that had "only child" crossed out with "big sister" written underneath. When he came through the front door, she sprinted to him, yelling about how her shirt had a secret message for him. He was very taken aback, and it took him a second, but once it clicked, he was beyond excited, as was our very confused daughter once we told her. She started dancing around the house, singing about having a baby sister, which she is adamant it will be, and it was just a really good day. He's still going on his trip and has not been even close to as stressed as he was last time. If anything, he's looking forward to it even more now because he knows it's going to be a last chance to really decompress before things become a whole lot crazier. Thank you so much everyone for all of the lovely comments and responses that I got. I really appreciated them. I showed my husband the post and admitted my original plans, and he got a big kick out of it, but he's very glad that I told him before the trip. Thanks again. Well, there we go. If you were after some wholesome content today, that's it. You just got it. That was just a beautiful story. I just love that. Sometimes Reddit can be a pretty toxic and negative place, but it's good to remind ourselves that a lot of good stuff does also exist on the website like that. That was wonderful. I mean, honestly, like the amount of stuff, you guys know this, the amount of stuff I read about entitled parents, like entitled kids, just rude people and terrible people in general. Then you come across a family like this where, you know, even on a subreddit like AmITheJerk, sometimes a lot of the posts are kind of negative, or you're like, yeah, this is kind of not great anyway. I mean, some people are in the wrong here, some people are not entirely sure. This is just someone genuinely asking, should I tell him now or later? Because either way, it's going to be an amazing thing, but could I potentially make something that's going to be amazing as well, his trip away, a little bit worse? Just great. Just like a healthy relationship, a lovely family, very enjoyable stuff. I agree with you as well, OP. I think that, you know, it wouldn't be as stressful this time. I'll try and put myself in that situation. Obviously, it's tough because I'm not a father. However, one day I may well be, and I think if I am to become a father twice, the second time would be a lot less stressful. I can imagine myself being a little bit like OP the first time, just wanting to make sure everything's okay, being, you know, on top of stuff, asking loads of questions, trying to sort things out. But I feel like once you've done it once, the second time is a lot easier and you know more what you're doing. So yeah, I reckon he's going to enjoy the holiday a lot. I am a 52-year-old man, and I just found out at least 4 of my 5 children, who are 33, 30, 28, 24, and 14 years old, 4 girls and 1 boy, are not mine. My wife won't say anything. A quick note before we get into this. Please do not use ancestry kits as a paternity test. If you genuinely want to check your child is your own, get a proper paternity test at your local medical lab. Ancestry tests are not accurate and should not be used to test paternity. In my case, it simply raised the alarm to get a proper test. I apologize if this is not an appropriate sub to ask. I posted this on r/relationships, but it was locked, and the mod suggested I ask on r/parenting. But I also want relationship advice on how to deal with my wife, so I want to ask for advice here too. Remember guys, this was originally posted in 2019 on r/relationship advice. First of all, I'm sorry if this ends up being long and rambly. I'm not really in the best state of mind. My world has been turned upside down over the last couple of weeks. I just want to write as much context as possible so I can get the best advice needed. For obvious reasons, I'm not yet comfortable talking about this with my friends, parents, or siblings. So, some background. I met my wife when we were in high school and we married in college. We have 5 beautiful children together. Really, I consider them a total blessing regardless of what I'm about to bring up. And up until a couple of weeks ago, I thought that we had the perfect marriage. We were typical high school sweethearts. We go out together, we never fight. I feel like I've done everything a loving husband should do. I'm saying this not to make myself out as the perfect husband. For example, my work has always meant I work long hours and maybe haven't always been there when she needed me. But I want to stress that I've never felt our marriage was in any trouble. And never in a million years would I have ever suspected my wife of being disloyal. She's always done everything she could to support me and take care of our children. Now, my eldest daughter recently had an ancestry test done, and the results of the ancestry test strongly suggested I was not her father. She confided this to me privately, showing me the results, and I could tell she was visibly upset by this. Of course, the first thing I did was reassure her that no matter what, she is my daughter and I'll always love her unconditionally. But secondly, the two of us decided to get an official paternity test since the ancestry tests are not completely reliable. It comes back, and I am indeed not her biological father. This news really broke me. I'm ashamed to say I broke down in tears in front of my daughter. The combination of finding out about my wife's infidelity and how upset I was making my daughter by how I was reacting. I really wish I'd kept it in for her sake, but I didn't. Following this, I asked my other children, except my youngest, to come and see me. I wanted to know the extent of my wife's infidelity. If it was a one-off, I could maybe work past it, especially given how long ago it would have been. However, I didn't want to tell my youngest as she is still in school, a teenager, and really I didn't think it was appropriate to tell her yet. Remember, she is 14. We tell the other three what has happened. I reassure them that I love them unconditionally and that I'll always be their dad, but that I need to know how long this has been going on. God, I can't begin to explain how touching their reaction was. They didn't care that I wasn't their biological father. They were just upset at how heartbroken I was. I feel like the only thing that has kept me going these last couple of weeks is their unwavering support. So we have paternity tests for each of the three done. Not only are none of them my biological children, together, 4 of my children have 3 different fathers, which somehow made it worse. It's like she wasn't just having an ongoing affair, she was having multiple? I can't explain how this makes it worse, but it just does. So, I confront my wife with this, expecting her to confess and beg for forgiveness. She doesn't confess. She doesn't even take it seriously. She says the tests must be flawed. All 4? How the heck am I supposed to take that seriously? I keep bringing it up and she keeps brushing it off, getting progressively more annoyed at me. When I bring it up, she will try and guilt trip me. We've been together since high school. Do you seriously not trust me? Etc. But how am I supposed to trust her in the face of such overwhelming evidence? Now that I've rambled and explained what has happened, I guess let me ask a few direct questions for advice. How can I reassure my children that this doesn't change anything between us? I feel like the way I've reacted, total breakdowns, has made them second guess this, despite however many times I reassure them. How do I handle my youngest daughter? I feel like our marriage is beyond saving, and I will need to tell my daughter something. I don't want her to know the truth until she's older, but I also don't want my wife lying and making me out to be the villain. Is there any way at all you think I could or should save my marriage? I've been with my wife my entire life. It's almost impossible to see a life without her. I know that the answer should be a clear-cut leave her, but we have 5 kids together. If there's anything that can be done to save our marriage, I want to consider it seriously. Okay, wow, what a start to this one. Imagine being in this position. You're 52 years old. It's not as if, you know, you're 22 and you realize that your wife's been cheating on you or your girlfriend's been cheating on you and you find out that your firstborn isn't actually your child. Not saying that's any less bad, of course, but these kids are all adults now, apart from your young 14-year-old. I mean, your eldest is 33. You've been with her, obviously, for 33 years of her life, and now you're finding out that she's actually not your child? Unbelievable. And then you have your wife just clearly denying it, and it's 3 men? Not just 1, 2, 3 men. And she's just saying, oh, come on, what a load of rubbish. Oh, goodness me, I don't know how you've dealt with this. To be honest, I'm compelled now to see what the updates are gonna hold. But as for advice right now, all I would say is get another set of tests. I mean, you've got to make sure 100% that this definitely is the case, that you are definitely not the father. I know you've already done a set of paternity tests, but go through another company, right? You need to 1000% make sure this is right before potentially, you know, just destroying this family with what's about to happen. Just make sure that is right, for starters. And then secondly, if it is, I'm sorry, but I don't know how you could possibly continue on with this relationship and this marriage. Someone that's lied to you for, what, 3 decades minimum? It's crazy. Unbelievable. Guys, if you've got any initial advice for OP, get in the comments down below. Is there anything we can do to salvage this? Now, back in 2019, a lot of people on r/relationship advice did, of course, have some very good advice for OP. Let's get into that. OP says, thanks so much to everyone for all the support and advice. I've not replied to as many comments as I should have, but I've read each and every one and taken your advice to heart. I'll continue reading any comments or messages you send me. Again, I can't begin to thank you for all your support. If this is resolved, I might post an update, but if she continues to lie, then I don't think I'll bother, as there's not much more I can add. Spoiler alert, we have some updates coming, guys. Don't worry. Anyway, from the advice in this subreddit and the r/parenting thread, I've decided to 1. Get second tests just in case some freak accident has occurred. Good. I mean, that is exactly what I suggested. I am the Oracle. There we go. But yeah, as I said, that has to happen. It would only be a freak accident that could possibly result in this. As I said, it's a 99% chance minimum that the results are conclusive and are correct, but you have to do it anyway. 2. Confront my wife with all 4 of my older children present. 3. Tell my youngest of the situation. Ask her if she wants to have a paternity test. It will be entirely her decision. 4. I'm 100% going to get some form of therapy. My mental state has really been deteriorating over the last couple of weeks, and I owe it to my kids to hold it together. I mean, yeah, fair enough, but also you have to cut yourself some slack. I cannot imagine the effect it would have on me hearing this news. So yeah, absolutely get some therapy, but also allow yourself to feel awful because it would be strange if you didn't. Number 5, depending on whether my wife tells the truth and what her explanation is, if any, I've not ruled out some form of counselling. But at the moment, I think divorce is inevitable unless she changes her attitude drastically. And then finally, number 6, contact a lawyer and prepare for divorce if it comes to that. Once again, I'd like to thank all of you for the time you took to express your support and share advice. Well, from my perspective, I think those 6 points are perfect. I couldn't suggest anything else. I think they're ideal. Now, before we get into the first official update, we have a couple more points that OP has raised, I guess answering some of the common questions in the comments down below. For example, number 1, how did the ancestry results suggest I wasn't her father, the initial child? OP says, my family is entirely Irish, no relatives outside of Ireland other than my immediate family. And I even have the stereotypical red hair. My daughter's ancestry results showed nothing from the British Isles or Western Europe or even Northern Europe. That's what set off alarm bells, but it's by no means conclusive, hence the paternity tests. Secondly, which 2 children share the same father? My 2 eldest daughters share the same father. 3. How did your wife conceive your children? Our eldest daughter was not planned. All the others were. Each time we conceived several months after we started trying. Our first 3 planned children were both our ideas, while she pressured me into having our youngest. She was in her late 30s and wanted one last child before it was too late, and eventually I agreed. She was conceived several months after we started trying too. And number 4, are you infertile? OP says, I don't know. I've never had a fertility test done, but the fact that none of our planned children are mine makes me think that I might be. I will have a fertility test as soon as possible. Okay, so here is the first update, posted just a few days after the original post. I've received a lot of messages and comments asking about an update, and countless remind me comments. I'm unsure how they work, but I assume they are also after an update. I will post an update, but it will not be anytime soon. This entire mess will take a long time to, well, make any sense out of. I don't know when I'll post an update, but it'll be weeks from now at a minimum, if not months. But I promise it will come eventually. Once again, thanks for the tremendous support that everyone has shown me. And OP did not fail to deliver on his promise. March the 1st, 2020, almost 1 year after the original post, we got this final update. I've been debating whether or not to post an update because nothing was ever resolved. I decided I would post it here in case anyone is still waiting for one. I apologize for not updating early when I promised I would. My kids and I confronted their mother shortly after making that Reddit post. It really didn't go well. I think the prospect that no one believed her finally hit home because she completely broke down and apologized profusely, but refused to explain herself or anything that would give myself peace of mind. For the next few weeks, we barely said a word to each other. I was hoping she was thinking it over, and I expected her to eventually sit me down and explain herself. I figured she was so far deep in a lie that got out of control, and she needed time to think things over. That's a very good point, because I guess she's been lying to your face for over 30 years. That lie that you are her children's father has been her life for 30 years. That's going to take some getting used to. I'm not trying to excuse it at all, but let's be literal and honest here. If you've been living a life for over 30 years, you probably can't just snap out of it immediately. But OP continues. Nope. I came home one evening to find that she had unalived herself by overdosing. Oh my goodness me. So, I lost the love of my life, and I'll never know what mistakes she'd made. I really wish I could go back in time and forget about it all. Whatever mistakes she made, I honestly wanted to work through it, and now I'm just riddled with guilt that I pressed her for an answer. The worst part of this ordeal was watching my kids work so hard to keep me together after having lost their mother. Anyway, please tell your family you love them while you have the chance. Wow, I've got to say, I really was not expecting that ending. That ultimately is just very sad. No matter what I say or what anyone thinks about this woman's clear infidelity, I think we can all probably accept now that she was cheating and was almost definitely living a lie for, as I said, over 3 decades. Anyone that's ever in a position that they feel the need to do what she did is ultimately incredibly sad, no matter what she did or what happened to her to make her come to that decision. Awful, really. Yeah, a very dark ending to an extremely sad story, and ultimately the person I feel the worst for is OP, because not only has he found out that 4 of his 5 kids aren't his, I don't know, did we find out if the 5th kid was his or not? I don't think we ever did. I don't know if they ever did a paternity test there. Maybe all of his kids weren't his, who knows. But he's also lost the love of his life, as he said. It seems crazy for us to sit here and think, oh, how can you ever be with someone that, you know, lied to your face for 30 years? But ultimately, he said they had a good relationship and he was in love. He is probably going to be riddled with guilt for the rest of his life. It's not his fault, and I don't think he should be, but yeah, he's always going to have those thoughts, isn't he now? Did I press my wife too much? He'll never actually know either, well, both the reasons why she did the things that she did, or if she actually did them for sure. Because without like a confession, he won't ever 1,000,000,000% know that she was cheating on him, or, you know, that the paternity tests were 1,000,000% right. I mean, obviously we can say that they are, but he probably will have those lingering doubts. I don't know. Ultimately, just a very, very sad story. Get your comments in down below. Did you expect that ending? I mean, I doubt anyone did. Wow. I cannot imagine the emotions that OP is going through and is probably still going through. Also, that update came in March 2020, just before the pandemic. So he went through all of that before the pandemic, then went into the pandemic. I mean, what a few years for that family. My word. But there we go. That is r/best of Redditor updates. My 50-year-old male wife, 48-year-old female, abandoned me 2 months ago to find herself. Now, this was originally posted on October the 27th, 2023. My wife Mary's family has a history of dementia, developing memory issues in their mid to late 50s. Her mum, grandmother, and several other relatives on her mum's side have developed dementia. Her mum lived with us for 4 years until earlier this year. Father is dead. Our kids are independent and out of the house. Our oldest is in her last semester of college, and the younger enlisted. The last 4 years were tough on us, our kids, daughter moved for college but moved back for a bit during COVID, and our marriage. Living with someone with dementia is brutal. We had talked a lot the last year about taking the remaining college funds, our regular savings, sell or rent the house. We were ready to downsize anyway, quit our jobs and travel for a year or until the money runs out. We just had to wait for her mum to move into our home. Now, I understand her anxiety about developing dementia, and I was burned out. You lived through COVID working remote, a wife working remote, a college and high school student taking remote classes, and a mother-in-law with dementia, and see how you hold up. Space finally opened up and we were able to move her mum into a care facility. I finally thought I had a chance to breathe. When we moved Mary's mum out, Mary's mental health took a huge downward spiral. I went from caring for her mum to caring for her. She felt guilty about putting her mum in her home and had lots of anxiety about developing dementia. Our plan was to start our traveling summer 2024. 2 months ago, I get home and she's left a note. My friends call it Exhibit A. Basically, she was going on our trip without me. She'd quit her job, took most of the savings, and wasn't sure when she'd be back. Maybe a year, maybe sooner. She, in quotes, knew I'd understand. Her location is turned off and my calls go directly to voicemail. I texted the kids a picture of the note.
You know what? I respect that. Tell the kids what's going on straight away so they're not left in the dark. Ultimately, this has completely blindsided you, and I don't think it's fair for you to just have to deal with this on your own and not tell anyone. So yeah, your kids are adults. You might as well let them know, guys, this has shocked me, but this is what's happening. We have our own checking accounts for direct deposits of our paychecks, but we transfer most into a joint account to pay the household bills and savings. We both had access to the main savings accounts. We have joint credit cards we use for household expenses. The 2 cars and mortgage are joints. We both also have our own small savings accounts, our own retirement accounts, equally funded, and our own credit cards for gifts and fun things. I closed all joint cards and accounts. I waited a month to see if she'd come back, hopefully before she spent our savings. After receiving only 1 text in the first month, I went to a lawyer. She basically said there was very little to do right now other than change the beneficiaries of my retirement accounts and life insurance. Yay, my wife gets nothing else if I die alone while she's having our adventures. It was only a month and there was no way to serve her papers. My lawyer advised me to keep paying the mortgage and the cars. The cost of trying to get a judge to approve the sale of joint assets was more than making payments. I didn't want to ruin my credit by letting one of our cars get repossessed, but I can't sell it because she's on the title. I get random texts and she sporadically posts on Instagram. Of course, she has comments turned off. I want to block her so bad, but my lawyer advised me that it's better to maintain a communication channel that's not through our kids. Her last post was from Hawaii. She put in the comments how great a husband I was for letting her take this trip. What the audacity of her putting that, my word. I'm barely making it, paying 2 cars, a mortgage, household bills, insurance, hoping there are no emergencies because I have no savings, and she's enjoying her trip? F her. I'm so angry at her. I helped take care of her mum for 4 years, and her when she fell apart after her mum moved into a memory care home, and she returns the favour by abandoning me? I'll never get to take this trip, and I have to put off retirement. My only solace is the kids are also angry at her, but they'll probably forgive her eventually. Double F her. I'm no fool. She's hooking up with guys. She looks good. She'll have zero problem getting men. I texted her and asked her if she was sleeping around. A week later, she responded that she wasn't. Sure. So, I'm drinking alone on a Friday night, and she's somewhere, probably on a beach, enjoying life. Triple F her. Okay, so there we are. That is the first post. Before we get into my thoughts on what I've just read, which by the way was nothing short of unbelievable, a quick edit from OP, speaking more about their lawyer. OP says, my lawyer has given me a bunch of advice and options, just more than I could possibly include in this post. Yes, I could definitely push the issue harder and I might need to at some point, but that's very expensive. Finding her, serving her, getting a judge to sign off, that's not cheap. I'm following up soon and I plan on talking about the savings and my finances. Until I paid all the bills and realised how little was left, it didn't hit me that I had to worry about money. First of all I can really say is the audacity of this woman is genuinely mind-blowing. You have said in the post how much help you've given not just her, but her family as well for so many years. Yet, no, that instantly just gets thrown back in your face in one seemingly quick, crazy decision to just go and find herself, whatever that means. I mean, does finding yourself mean that you abandon all your family without telling them and then just go and meet new guys cheating on your husband? Maybe it does. I just have no idea what would possibly warrant this. Maybe there's something that we're not getting here from OP, but yeah, what a slap in the face for somebody to do this to you, your wife of all people, after all the help you've given her. I mean, you don't even need to give her all that help, but it certainly doesn't help her image. Unbelievable. Anyway, let's get into a few relevant comments and answers from OP. So, one person said, thanking you for letting her take this trip is basically her saying, when I get through living the single life, I'll be coming back to the comfort and security of married life. When she returns, I would say, welcome home, here are your walking papers. For what it's worth, I completely agree with that. OP has replied, she 100% is under the delusion that she's coming back to a marriage. She's had a few conversations with our daughter, and she's convinced I'll understand and forgive her. What is there to understand? It's incomprehensible. How can you understand that?
Someone else said, tell your daughter to pass along the message that you're filing for divorce for abandonment and see if this gets you some traction. I don't generally like the idea of going through kids, but they need to have your back on this. Maybe even tell her they'll cut her off as well if she keeps doing this to you and the family. Maybe even start posting about how she's living the good life and letting your friends and family know what kind of pickle this has put you in. Everyone probably assumes you're on board if you're not purposefully driving the true narrative. OP replied, she only hears what she wants. I asked her to send me an address to serve her papers. Wow, she only told me that we'll work it out when she comes home. The F we will. My daughter tells her all the pain she's causing, but she just says that she only has 5 to 10 years left until she gets dementia. It's impossible to know if she'll even develop dementia, but shouldn't she be spending this with her family? Okay, well that comment there is just the craziest one so far. Because she thinks that she may well develop dementia in 5 to 10 years, which, by the way, is quite a long time, that apparently allows her to go off gallivanting and abandon her entire family. No logic there. I can't say I'm surprised because obviously she has shown absolutely no logic so far, but nonetheless, even that has surprised me a little bit. And yeah, OP, I completely agree with you. If you do think you're going to end up developing dementia, which by the way, given her family history, is a completely logical thought process, that's fine. I have no problem with that. Surely at that point you say, okay, but I want to live my remaining sentient years where I know what I'm doing and I'm 100% working upstairs with my family, not abandoning them and doing something completely random. But of course, this is r/best of Redditor updates. And 2 weeks after this, on November the 13th, OP posted the following. An update from my original post. I'm feeling much more positive now that the financial situation has become a little more manageable. Basically, I'm running up debt that will get paid off when I sell the house. Even with lawyer fees, I have 6 to 8 more months before I have to worry about money, assuming there are no emergencies. My friend's wife gave me some good advice. Don't go from being a hero to a villain in your kids' eyes. How I talk about and treat my wife will determine my future relationship with my kids. Now, I don't give a dang about my wife, but I don't want to make her a sympathetic figure or drive them away from both of us. Very good point, actually. I followed up with the lawyer. Basically, she said we're going to have her pay back the savings she took through a reduction in her share of the assets. Any division of assets will include the savings she took. She'll also have to repay the money I spent maintaining the household while she was gone. There's plenty of equity in her share of the house and her retirement plans to cover that though. She said that our finances are so intertwined after nearly 25 years of marriage. Wow, that is a lot of years. My wife is going to get some share of the assets. Best case is she agrees to the terms of the divorce and it's relatively cheap and quick. Otherwise, it gets complicated and expensive. She gave me a lot of options on how much I can expect to spend, so I decided to just mostly wait. I got a couple of credit cards with promo rates for purchases and transfers that gives me breathing room and I can conserve cash. I'll just pay them off when I sell the house. Now that my financial situation is less stressful, I'm actually enjoying her being gone. I'm free to do whatever I want, whenever. I don't have to cook or clean or take care of anyone. To be fair, I forget, OP's really been taking care of someone, either his wife or her mother, for the best part of 5 years now. The house is quiet for the first time I can remember. I loved my wife, but her mental health weighed down our marriage. On balance, it was worth it until now. The first month or so, I expected her to be there whenever I'd get home. When someone was at the door or if I heard noises, I'd think it was her. I'd check the doorbell cam obsessively. I'm not looking forward to her returning. It has to happen, but when she comes back, I'll have to deal with her, the divorce, getting the house ready to sell, dividing all our stuff, finding a new place to live. I'm hoping that she'll stay away until after New Year's, but my daughter said she thinks her mum will be home for Christmas, either to stay or visit. My lawyer will have papers ready to serve her. Hopefully, she'll just agree to the terms and continue her travels. Now, people in the comments had some great advice. Renting or selling the house is not really feasible right now since I'd have to fix some stuff and get it ready. Since I need a place to live, the amount I net each month, rent, mortgage, rent on a new apartment, storage unit, it's just not worth it. My kids' rooms are still full of their stuff and I don't want to spend the time and effort to clear them out and put them in storage. Getting a home equity line of credit, an HELOC.
This was great advice. I didn't realize I didn't need both people to get a loan. If I need more money, I can go this way. In the short term, the promo rates on the credit cards were cheaper and easier though than getting an HELOC. Serving my wife divorce papers or getting a divorce in absentia, which pretty much means getting a divorce when someone isn't there. I didn't know this, just had to look it up. This is something I might need to do eventually, but the cost in lawyer fees goes up exponentially in cases like this. I'm comfortable just waiting for now. The last recommendation was to look at the phone bill to see where she's at or possibly going. I did look at her usage and I did notice that she doesn't post on social media until after she leaves a place. Like when she posted about Hawaii, she made a call that day that originated in Los Angeles. She posted about a cruise and I figured out the dates, trying to serve her at the port possibly, but it ended a couple of days before she posted. She tried adding international calling to her line, but I blocked it, so she removed her phone from our account. The crazy thing about this is that she's doing all this stuff, right? And while she's saying, oh, my husband is definitely going to understand and thanks so much to him for letting me do this and find myself at the age of what, mid-40s, almost 50. Strange. Anyway, she's actually ignoring her entire family and just ghosting them at the same time. If you're saying to somebody, oh, thanks so much for letting me do this, but then not even talking to them and actively avoiding them, how does that make any sense? Again, I asked a question there that has no answer because this woman is a lunatic. Right then, finally, let's have a look at a couple of fantastic comments. This user says, oh my gosh, I'm infuriated on your behalf. The audacity of, my husband is so great for letting me take this trip. The petty in me hopes she'll be home for Thanksgiving because I want her world to explode. OP replies though that she's told her family she won't be home for Thanksgiving. Nobody told her my daughter and I are spending Thanksgiving with her family though. She can see the post of us having a good time without her. Someone else said, please change the locks on the house so she can't just waltz back in while you're out one day. I'm so angry for you. I've been married for 23 years and if my husband did this to me, God help anyone between me and him. That is actually a very good point. The way you've handled this, OP, is kind of crazy. Yeah, I put myself in this situation and I'd be going absolutely berserk. I'd be chasing down this woman. There is no doubt about it because it just doesn't make any sense what she's doing. I feel like I've said that about 20 times now, but it doesn't. I'd have to go and find her physically in real life and get some answers. OP said to that question though, she left her keys. I changed the code on the security system, the passphrase and password. I also found a new hiding place for the emergency key that we had in the backyard. And a final comment from this user. So she's just going to blow through all the money and then she assumes that you'll take her back and care for her when dementia hits her? OP says, seems to be her plan, but it's not mine. Well, good. To put it honestly and bluntly, I hope that dementia does hit her. I mean, that is harsh, but I just kind of do. She's destroying lives here. I hope dementia destroys hers. Is that too harsh to say? I don't care. It is genuinely what I feel. And, you know, we do have some dementia in my family and I know the effects. So I'm not saying that lightly. And on top of that, I hope that she dies tomorrow. Now that might be a bit harsh. But in all seriousness, I mean, how can she expect to just go about her daily life and then say, oh, yes, now that I have dementia, look after me. I hope that nobody looks after her when she has dementia and she lives the rest of her days utterly confused and dies. Again, I do actually hope she dies. There we go. That is the end of this one. I will say though that this isn't over, clearly, but right now, today, it is. I had a look. There is no more on this story right now. You know what? I'm going to just quickly double check right now live at the time of recording, just so I know we're not missing anything. It's a shame, but as OP said, she wasn't back for Thanksgiving and we don't have an update yet. Yep, we don't have one at the time of recording, but I'm going to look out for this one, guys. And hopefully after Christmas or whenever OP's wife comes back, we get the final update to this story and some vindication and some justice that I know that we're all looking for. OP, what can I say? Terrible spot to be in. But there we go, guys. Any advice for OP? Get in the comments down below, just in case they do come across this one. Wow, what a story. I cannot wait to hear what happens next.
I think my friend's clumsy boyfriend is purposely hurting her. So, I am a 26-year-old woman, and my friend Kay, who's also 26, has been dating Andrew, a 25-year-old guy, for almost a year now. Honestly, until these last months, I really liked them together, and he has assimilated into our friend group really well. He's been easy to talk to and is someone who I thought could be the perfect match to Kay. In the beginning, Andrew was always known for being clumsy, occasionally spilling on himself, tripping, and sometimes just being an overall goof. We joked he was the poster child of a himbo. It started with a simple mistake: Andrew spilling wine on Kay's outfit. He seemed so apologetic and genuinely sorry. Then a couple of days later, out of pot luck, Andrew bumps into Kay while she was bringing out a salad bowl, causing it to fall on her foot and giving her a pretty nasty bruise. Again, apologetic, but this time just rubbed me the wrong way. It seemed awkward the way he'd bumped into her. Then there were just more of these accidents, like ripping a dress when he was falling, trying to catch his balance, dropping a bowl of chocolate ice cream on her shoes, and spilling an ashtray that landed all over her hair. All of this just gave me a weird feeling, like why does it feel like his clumsiness is getting worse? Recently, we were having a movie night. Kay was sitting on the floor, and I'd gotten up from the couch to get some more popcorn when I heard Andrew walking over with hot tea. I'm thinking, no way I'm gonna have her get piping hot tea spilled on her by accident. So I get up and say, "Oh, thanks for grabbing this. Do you mind grabbing me popcorn since you're closest?" He kind of gets a defensive tone with me, saying, "Yeah, but let me give this to Kay first." I said, "No, it's not a problem. I'll give it to her," as sweetly as possible, and took the mug out of his hands and gave it to Kay. He seemed kind of distant the whole rest of the evening. I talked with one of my friends in our group just about the tea drama, and she said that Andrew might have been angry, feeling like I was babying him. I think that if he's been prone to hurting his girlfriend, wouldn't he want to avoid situations that could get her seriously hurt? Wouldn't you want a friend to help you? Am I just overthinking this? I want to talk to Kay about my concerns soon because I'm really scared for her. I just want to be wise in how I speak to her. I don't want her to take anything I say the wrong way. Any advice would be so helpful. Okay, so that was the original post, posted on the 5th of August 2023. In fact, the first update comes just a day later. But off the bat, let me know in the comments, what do you think? Me, personally, something is definitely up here. I'm sorry, you don't do this sort of thing a number of times. Especially, what was the last example that OP gave? Spilling an ashtray that landed all over her hair. I mean, I don't know. Has that ever happened to anyone ever? Not that I can think of. It's just too many things happening that are accidents. But in reality, I mean, these things sort of don't happen. And yeah, it did seem kind of ominous when he was walking over with the tea. Now, at this stage, we're not sure, but as I said, let's get into the first update, which was posted just a day later. OP saying as a little edit before we get into this, that she's going to reach out to Kay and chat with her about all of this. Okay, so it's now August the 6th, the next day. Hi all. This evening, I got a text from Andrew. It seems my friend, who I'll be referring to as Sarah, had told him about the tea situation. He texted, "Hey, just wanted to reach out and let you know that I wasn't angry with you. I played it cool and just replied, 'Hey, no problem man, just wanted to make sure all was good with you.' He messaged me back that, 'Lol, yeah, why wouldn't I be?' I left it alone after that. I reached out to Sarah and asked her how the story was relayed to him, and she explained that it sort of came up in conversation. She had told him that I hadn't meant to baby him and hoped I didn't make him angry by taking away the teacup. Sarah is a fixer, and I think she just wanted any conflict between us to be resolved. While I know she was coming from a good place, I'm a bit frustrated to have my words twisted into what she believes happened. I messaged Kay and we are still hanging out either early Monday or Tuesday. She seems to be fine with me. We had a quick call, but she seemed less talkative, which has me nervous. I really hope I didn't screw everything up. After a lot of comments, I've decided I'm going to be careful with my wording. A lot of you have pointed out Andrew could have a medical condition. Now, yes, while I'm a bit skeptical, I will keep this in mind. Hopefully, my concerns can be addressed in a way that flows with our conversation. Thank you all for your feedback, even if some was harsh. And to all who have shared DV, I presume that's domestic violence stories, I'm so sorry you'd ever received any mistreatment. You deserve happiness and safety. I'll be posting an update as soon as we have our talk or anything changes. Yeah, it's a tough one in OP's spot. Obviously, you want to err on the side of caution because imagine you said, oh, it's probably just a few accidents, and then something serious happened, really serious. You can never forgive yourself. So I understand what OP is going through here and that she thinks she has to do something, And I appreciate it, really. Better to be safe than sorry, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, now we're going to have a look at a few comments that OP left below this post, kind of in replies to other Redditors, which I think shed more light on the situation. So the first thing that OP said was, he's only being clumsy with her. In fact, I'd say it's become more focused on her. I mean, that right there is eye-opening. And I think that that is the reason why OP is so concerned, right? If Andrew was just being clumsy with everyone and in general, then perhaps you could say, yes, he's just a clumsy individual. Or you could go down the line of maybe he has a medical treatment or needs some sort of help. Because it's just focused on his girlfriend, that is concerning. OP continues, sorry, should have been more clear in my writing. Andrew's clumsiness, while apparent, was always self-inflicted, like a small spill or mostly tripping a bit over his feet. It's only been recently with his behavior that it's become more pointed towards Kay. Like, it's rarely been him being the injured or spilled on party. It's now only been Kay. Someone asked, does he do it when she's particularly proud of or happy in an outfit? I see, maybe hinting at jealousy there. OP replies, the dress he ripped was one of her favorites, and she had to go home early because it ripped in the cleavage area and she was more embarrassed. The ashtray being dumped on her hair was when she was wearing her hair natural, curly, when she mostly straightens it, but she'll have her hair natural randomly and nothing happens. Also, he totally ruined her white heels with the chocolate ice cream. Now, it's at this point, guys, where OP realizes that something might be up. She's put two and two together and realized that there actually might be a pattern in Andrew's behavior. Take a look at this comment on screen. There's something I've been thinking about, and writing it all down, I just realized all the accidents have to do with her looks. Spilling on her outfits, bumping into her when she's wearing a dress, chocolate ice cream on her shoes, those were white heels. Yes, I know that's just speculation. Someone else said it could be a Munchausen by proxy situation, which is pretty much where someone pretends to be ill. Overall, just solidifies that I just need to talk to her, which I will be doing this week. There we go. What do we think? I mean, now that it's been put on paper like that, I kind of agree. It does seem to be all with her looks, which we didn't know at first, but yeah, something is definitely going on here. There's no way that Andrew is just clumsy. OP continues. Also, her reaction to these accidents is always quick to try and move on. She is somewhat introverted and doesn't like attention, so she's just quick to say she's fine and move on from it. She'll tell Andrew that she forgives him and just to be careful. Now, people in the comments were saying that seems a little bit sinister, right? It seems like he's trying to see what he can get away with. And OP replies, that's what's been hard. I felt like I've been the only friend to notice. Like, no one else seems to want to believe that Andrew's doing this on purpose because we've known him to be this clumsy guy. I mean, who wants to believe that someone's doing this on purpose? And then one final question, does this happen in front of others or also with just the two of them? From what I understand, replies OP, he's always had these accidents in front of friends, not when it's just the two of them. And whenever it happens, he gets really apologetic and he's never laughed about it. But it just feels so weird. Like he's being so over the top. Like once he said, I would hate myself if I seriously hurt you. I don't know, that just came off so odd to me for his usual character who's typically a silly guy. Yeah, that is very weird. That is almost projecting or foreshadowing that you will seriously hurt her and that, oh, I didn't mean to, and because I'm now saying it in the present that, oh, wouldn't it be such a shame if I did? It kind of is allowing it when it eventually does happen, even though, let's be honest, it seems as though Andrew would do this on purpose. I don't know, I'm getting a weird picture of this guy. Right then, let's get into the next update from August the 8th, 3 days from the original post. Hi all, sorry for the delay, a lot has gone on. So I talked to Kay this morning. I started off the conversation normal. When Kay says, hey, why were you concerned about Andrew bringing me tea? I just say, I'd noticed he'd been more clumsy lately, and I wanted to avoid either of you getting hurt. She was quiet for a bit, then asked me, do you think it's odd how he's been acting? Now, considering all your, Reddit's, advice, I respond with, I care about you and want you to be safe. I don't want to hurt you or Andrew, but I do feel like most of the accidents have come at your expense. I don't want it to get to a point where you have a worse injury. This is when Kay bursts out crying like I've never seen. After composing herself enough to talk, she says she's been so suspicious of how these accidents have been centered around her and how validating it was to have someone feel the same way. It's been causing her a lot of anxiety, and she felt so relieved when I took the teacup away from him. She's tried to suggest to Andrew that he should just go to a doctor, but he says he's perfectly fine. Now, Kay is not confrontational, so she just drops it. She said how recently Sarah, Andrew, and her were all hanging out together. Sarah told Andrew I was so upset about how he was hesitant to hand me the teacup. A completely different story from what Sarah told me. Now, I've been more open with my emotions in my post due to my anonymity, but in person I was very casual about the situation. I said something along the lines of, "Hey, did you think I upset Andrew by taking the tea when I asked him to get me popcorn? I hope I didn't come off rude." Then Kay told me something really disturbing. How during this conversation, Andrew and Sarah started joking about Kay being a battered wife. How ridiculous the idea would be if Andrew was really abusing her, and some really dark jokes. This had Kay feeling like she was crazy to think that these accidents might be on purpose. Also, they said some things about me that made her so upset that she couldn't even tell me. Kay said she's felt trapped, living with him, and how he's intertwined in our group. She felt like she needed to wait to have proof that he was faking it to make it worth a bunch of drama. I feel horrible that she's felt so alone in this. I was pretty blunt and I just asked, "Do you still love him?" She responded, "I don't. I think I don't even like him anymore." So, we talked about the best way for Kay to leave Andrew, being as safe as possible. Kay called in sick to work and we went over to her house and talked with our friend, Leah, her roommate. Andrew was out at work, so we quickly moved all their things into Leah's room. She has a key to her door. Anything that was super sentimental to either of them, we packed in my car. Kay is going to stay at my house, and Leah wanted to stay with a family member who lives not too far away. Kay has written a letter to Andrew ending things. She's going full no contact. She set a date that she expects him to leave. He moved in with them, so he doesn't have his name on the lease. Our friends Mike and Corey will be staying at the house. This is to ensure that nothing will be damaged due to an accident. Also, to let Kay and Leah know when it's safe to come back. Thank you all so much for your advice. Tomorrow I plan to go on a little shopping spree with Kay, doing everything I can to alleviate her anxiety. So far, we know that Andrew has seen the note and is packing to leave. So far, so good. And if anything happens, I'll be sure to update you all. And there we go, that is it. But before we end this one, I've picked out some relevant comments which I think explain a little bit more about what's going on from the original post, and OP has replied, giving some clarity. So here's the first one. Someone asked, "What on earth is up with Sarah?" OP replied, "This is what is so odd to me. I said Sarah was a fixer because she's always been the mum friend, wanting everyone to be safe and happy. I've never noticed anything between them, just normal banter that we all have with one another. I just don't know why she's going to bat for him so hard. We had a call where she was very mean to me, to put it mildly. She's very angry at me, like I was the one who caused all of this, as well as some very personal attacks. I think Andrew is telling her something because this isn't who I knew her to be at all. Or maybe she's always been like this, but has simply masked it." Another question is this: did Kay ever tell you what Sarah said? I told Kay vaguely about what Sarah said on the phone call and asked if it was similar, and she confirmed. Being as vague as possible, it has to do with my family's issues with addiction and situations happening due to that. I told our friends in confidence. Knowing she's used that to weaponize it against me and has told Andrew has made my skin crawl. So how about other friends and their reactions to Kay and Sarah? Well, OP replies that Kay is safe and we will do all we can to keep it that way. All of our friends, except Sarah, have been a huge help in Kay's healing during this time. It's been amazing to be a part of and to witness. We've all since blocked her. Her comments towards Kay and me have not been tolerated by our group. Hopefully, this is the wake-up call she needs. And finally, a couple of Redditors had concerns about safety. You know, maybe Andrew comes back. OP even mentioned the fact that Andrew could try and get access to the house, cause another accident, once again, in inverted commas. So yeah, has Kay done anything to ensure their future safety? OP replies that, luckily, thanks to this, they've bought one of those camera detectors, waiting for it to arrive still. They have 4 months left on their lease and are considering moving, but nothing is set in stone. Andrew's already moved out, and Mike and Corey had him hand over the key to the apartment. But we're still waiting till the locks are changed and the detectives arrived to help Kay and Leia move back in. So there we go. That really is it. What a story. You know, I really actually quite like this one. Obviously not what's going on here, and it's a terrible situation to be in, but the moral, and I think what it shows, is pretty powerful. Just off the rip, at the start, when, a little accident here and there, most people didn't even bat an eye. Even, the majority of, pretty much everyone, right, apart from OP, who was good friends with Kay, didn't even notice anything to really be awry. But OP, big shout out, just felt that something was off. Didn't really believe it, didn't buy it. As much as Andrew was saying, it's an accident, just being clumsy, I'm so sorry, there were little undertones, as we saw throughout, of things that just weren't quite right. I mean, the main one that sticks out is saying, if I ever seriously hurt you, I don't want to do that. It would be so terrible. Like, who says that? Seriously, who does? Fair play OP for noticing the signs early on. And not just for noticing them, but for doing something about it. Because a lot of people would have thought, this is a little bit dodgy, but, not my relationship. But you're just being an unbelievable friend there. And as you can see, the outpouring of emotion when you finally said to Kay, when someone finally noticed and said to her, listen, I see what you're going through. I can see it in my eyes. And she felt validated. In that one moment, that is unbelievable from you right there. That is great friendship. That is what being a good friend is all about. So OP, shout out to you for, who knows, saving Kay perhaps from serious damage, emotional and maybe even physical down the line. I mean, probably physical, let's be honest. Some of the stuff that Andrew and Sarah were saying at the end there. Crazy scenes. And letting her move on with her life and getting rid of this absolute toxic demon. Great story. Just shows that having a little bit of awareness and calling something out when you see it, no matter how small, can have such big ramifications in a good way on someone's life. Am I the jerk for telling my friend's boyfriend that he shouldn't have been allowed to eat? Some friends and I decided to do the trend where we have a dinner and everyone brings a food that starts with the first letter of their name. Before we go any further, get in the comments down below. What would you bring? I reckon I'll bring a little bit of jelly. There is one friend of ours that's a bit of a moocher. Whenever we go out, she never pays for stuff, whether it's the dinner bill, tickets for the movies, etc. We always end up paying for her. But everyone accepted this and doesn't really have an issue with it. However, recently it's become worse. She's been dating this guy for a couple of months, and she brings him everywhere with her, even when he's not invited. So now we have two people to pay for. Also, I feel like I have to say that they have jobs. They're not struggling. It would be different if they were broke, then of course I wouldn't mind. But we had the dinner last night and everybody brought food and put a lot of effort into it. These two, however, showed up with absolutely nothing. Not even a bottle of soda. We were annoyed, but nobody said anything. It wasn't until the end of the night when they were leaving that I cracked a little. The friend's boyfriend was taking home all the barbecue ribs that were left. I repeat, all of them. And there were like a lot. Like, dang, be considerate at least. He emptied the entire tray of ribs into a container. That's when I politely asked, can you maybe not take all of it? The others might want some too? He got all defensive and asked, why are you treating me like I'm stealing all the food? I clarified that I never said such a thing, and I only asked that he didn't take all of it. He got angry, plopped the ribs back and said, fine, I don't need your food. To which I replied, it kinda seems like you do, and to be honest, you shouldn't have eaten at all since you didn't contribute again as usual. Then my friend came, took him, and just left without saying anything. Now apparently she's angry with us. Me, mainly. Most of my friend group doesn't think I did anything wrong, but there are a couple who are saying that I shouldn't have said anything. The thing is that I didn't even say anything to my friend because I don't mind that she doesn't contribute. Her boyfriend was the one irritating me. He eats the most food but doesn't contribute. Drinks the most alcohol, doesn't contribute. Orders really expensive meals at restaurants, doesn't contribute towards the bill. I guess I got kind of annoyed and snapped at him. I tried phoning her to clarify that I don't have an issue with her, but she's ignoring me. I don't know, maybe I should have left well enough alone. Okay, now off the bat, before we get into the update, I have to say, surely this is the most clear, cut and dry Am I the Jerk post of all time, right? I mean, how can you attend something like this, where the whole point is for everyone to bring food, not bring food, and then eat the most, and then take it home? That's insane. To be honest, your friend's bad enough, and I know you've made peace with her not bringing anything or contributing, but you shouldn't have done. That's still awful. However, her boyfriend as well. Somehow that's even worse. Now, before we get into the update that we're all, of course, looking forward to, first of all, I picked out a few relevant comments from the initial post, which shed a little bit more light on this story. Someone asked, did he just steal a container? Yeah, because, I mean, if he hasn't brought any food, then surely he hasn't brought any containers, right? Unless he was planning on taking food, stealing food at the end, and didn't bring any himself, but brought something to steal food in. OP's replied, correct, it wasn't his container. Yep, I asked the friend who was hosting the dinner about it. She didn't even know he took it until after they got mad and left. When they left and she came to the dining room, she saw the container there with all the ribs in it and was like, what the frick? When did he even take this? Another fair question that I saw was this. Did the boyfriend know he was supposed to bring something? I think that's fair enough, because if he didn't, and it was a genuine mistake, or he just wasn't asked, then not bringing something is completely fine. I still don't love the fact that he took all the ribs, but that would explain the first part. But OP says, oh, he knew. He even made a joke about not bringing anything. Also, isn't it common sense not to take a whole tray of food from somewhere? But yes, I do need to confront the friend. I've been letting her poop slide for way too long. Couldn't agree more. Someone else said, well, why do you guys encourage her mooching? Yeah, it's stupid, to be honest. She is substantially younger than the rest of us, so when she initially started the not paying thing, everyone was like, oh, she's young, let's pay for her, and she sort of became the little sister of the group. The handful of times I did mention paying, she acts like she forgot. For example, we were both in line for snacks, and I offered for her to go ahead of me, like, do you want to go first? She acted all surprised. Oh, yeah, I'll go first. Yeah, I fully know that she expected me to pay for the both of us. Someone else asked, why does everybody want her around? Is it a looks thing? Very valid question in my opinion. Why would you want to be friends with somebody that doesn't contribute, right? Well, one of my friends, says OP, was friends with her first. It's her co-worker. Then she introduced her into our friend group. She is a pretty girl, sure, but it's not like that. The friend who introduced us is really fond of her. She's the main one who says not to say anything about the mooching. I think it's kind of like she likes having a mini-me of sorts around, except she's actually rich and contributes. But yeah, they're close. Then somebody asked the very important question, which we do not know the answer to yet. How old is everybody involved? Well, OP and her pals are all in their 30s, and this girl is 22. Quite the age gap, really. Finally, someone has said, you're not the jerk here, of course, but you obviously do mind that she's a mooch. OP says, okay, fine, you caught me. I do mind, and I find it annoying. I put up with it because everybody else says to. Oh my god, don't tell her that. You'll make her feel bad. I wanted to phone her and clarify that I had no problems with her to avoid drama. God, do I hate the drama. But by speaking up, I've sort of divided our friend group now, and the whole situation is annoying. Okay, so there we go. Now, 10 days later, on the 29th of November 2023, we got the following updates. I wanted to clarify. The reason I said I don't really have a problem with her not contributing is because I personally never paid for her in terms of dinner, tickets, etc. I've paid for like a drink, some popcorn and parking before. But she obviously still benefits from me and the others when we bring food and drinks and she brings nothing. I've always thought it was unfair, but nobody wanted to say anything, so I left it alone. I should also mention that she is a friend by association. I've only known her since the beginning of this year. So, I confronted her, like many of you suggested, and started off by saying I thought it was unfair that her boyfriend was taking all the food, and that's why I spoke up. She said she's sorry and that her boyfriend only did that because he didn't think anyone would mind. I should say that even though she eats at these things, she's never taken copious amounts of food before. I said that I don't speak on behalf of everyone, but I feel it's unfair that she keeps bringing her boyfriend and also that she never contributes to anything. Since she had just been apologetic, I thought she'd respond by saying that she would start to contribute. But instead, she asked why I cared so much, because I don't even eat ribs and that I embarrassed her and her boyfriend for nothing. Yeah, I don't eat meat, but that was besides the point. My friend put a lot of hours into cooking those ribs just for this guy to take them all? No, that's not right. And I didn't make a scene, he did. I spoke very politely. So I explained that again and said that she's been an inconsiderate friend. She said, I don't know why you're attacking me when nobody else has a problem. Then said that she didn't want to associate with me anymore. I said that was fine, and that was the end of it. I told the others the outcome, and the friend that introduced Mooch to us was really mad that I caused a rift between everyone over food. So the group essentially split up, and those who were irritated with me will continue to hang out with her. The others who secretly found her annoying but were too polite also spoke up and decided to branch off too. Our Mooch-free group hung out a couple of times already, and all the complaints are finally being released. Also, everybody brings something now, which is nice. Not just that, but it's a more relaxing and stress-free environment without them. The introducer friend is trying to poach some of the new group to no avail, which I think is funny, but anyway, that's it. Sorry if this was anticlimactic, and I know this is like juvenile high school stuff, but hey, that is what happened. So there we go. Yes, I agree. Very juvenile, but let's be honest. I mean, all adults are really just big kids. These sort of things do happen. It's very funny. Like, you know, doing all this over a little bit of food, you could argue, is a little bit silly. But then again, you've got to make a point at some stage, don't you? And the fact that some people have just like split off and say, no, I'm not talking to you again. How dare you call out somebody for eating other people's food and not contributing at all. I'm going to be friends with her and not you. I mean, yeah, it's so childish. Very, very funny and entertaining though. I will say that. Now, before we end, here are a couple of final comments which I think are very important actually, which, you know what, I'll chuck up on screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. Here's the first. I need some details, someone says, on the Mooch free group versus the Mooch group. As in, I guess, how many people are in each side. OP says, thank you. There are 7 in the Mooch free group and 4 in the Mooch group. 5 if you include the boyfriend. Okay, well that is a pretty good ratio, I'd say. It's still 3 too many in the Mooch group, but I guess you're always going to have the one that introduced her to the group. It seems like whoever that is just likes her a lot. As OP said earlier, kind of like having a mini-me or something. Don't really get that, but yeah, clearly very fond of her. She's obviously going to be in it. The boyfriend's going to be in it. What about those other 2 though? Kind of embarrassing. I mean, still, at this point, you've been given a get out of jail free card. Somebody has bitten the bullet for you and actually stood up for themselves in the group. 6 people have decided to join them correctly. Yet, you're just like, no, I still don't think it's that bad that she's stealing food and not contributing and inviting her boyfriend to things that he's not invited to. And also, he's probably just not that nice. Weird. That was your time to jump ship and you failed. Oh, and actually, someone has finally asked the most important question. Where is rib making, friend? Rib maker is, of course, in the Mooch free group. I mean, that would be very weird. If rib maker was not in the Mooch free group, that would have been catastrophic because that's the person whose food was stolen in the first place, really. But yeah, there we go. The division of a friendship group, 7 to 5 over some ribs. Wonderful stuff.